A dark, cramped room. Serafina, I gave up the entire Vance family empire for you. Please don't leave me. Asher Vance cried out, his voice hoarse with desperation. But contrary to the anguish he performed, the corner of his mouth held the faintest smirk. As if he'd been expecting it, a searing pain erupted in his chest. A military-grade combat knife had been plunged straight through his heart. With a heavy thud, he collapsed. Unlike most people on their deathbed, Asher was practically buzzing with excitement. Oh, for fuck's sake. Finally, this garbage plot is over. The life drained from his body, his pupils dilating. For Asher, this ending was a new beginning. Slowly, the darkness faded. Asher's eyes fluttered open, his face a mask of pure, unadulterated joy. But when the familiar, spacious lines of his own executive office came into focus, he froze. You son of a bitch, system. You screwed me. A stampede of a million F-bombs went off in his head. The system's cold, mechanical voice echoed in his mind. Host, my apologies. A fatal error has occurred in the program. So what now? Asher snapped. Please replay the current plot sequence. Are you out of your goddamn mind? What, am I sick in the head? Going through that once was torture enough, and you want me to do it again? Asher felt his sanity fraying. That's right. He wasn't just a transmigrator who'd been dropped into another world. He was a retransmigrator. And to make matters worse, he was trapped in a trashy web novel titled The Dragon King's Return. Of course, he wasn't the hero. He was the villain, which was precisely why he loathed the plot so much. The book's premise was boilerplate garbage. A kid from an orphanage is forced to flee the country. After years of struggling, he joins a random mercenary group, grinds his way up to become a legendary super soldier, then a veritable god of war commanding thousands. He founds his own PMC, the Dragon's Den, earning him the title of the Dragon King. As for how any of that happened, the hack author just hand-waved it. The point was, the hero was a bona fide badass with unlimited power, status, and wealth. The main storyline kicks off when he returns to the States to find the people who killed his uncle. By a twist of fate, he meets the female lead, Serafina Hayes, who is, of course, devastatingly beautiful. He then saves her from the clutches of the story's pathetic, simpering villain, Asher Vance. From there, it was a classic power fantasy. The hero pretends to be an underdog while effortlessly crushing his enemies, collecting a harem of beautiful women and stumbling into one lucky break after another. It was pure, unadulterated wish fulfillment. The author ignored any plot holes or logical inconsistencies, because as long as the readers felt good, who cared? It was a brain-dead, guilty pleasure novel. Logic was optional. But for Asher, the guy cast as the villain, it was a living nightmare. System, stop screwing around. If there's an error, fix the damn program. Asher pleaded. I'm done. I'm not playing this live-action role-play game with these morons anymore. His stance was crystal clear. As compensation, the host will be granted a new ability to mitigate the suffering experienced during the plot replay. Hearing this, Asher finally calmed down. The damn system was showing a sliver of humanity. It wasn't like he was a masochist. Getting beat up in the story still hurt. Receive rewards for roasting the plot. Simply critique the plot's terrible writing in your mind, and you will receive random rewards. Roasting the plot? That he could do. Asher had been dying to tear this garbage story to shreds. For everyone else, it was a power fantasy. For him, it was a descent into brain-rotting stupidity. In the novel, his character, Asher Vance, was the ultimate trust fund kid. His father was a powerful senator, his mother the undisputed queen of Manhattan real estate. His personal fortune made the likes of Bezos and Musk look like small-time hustlers. His declared assets were in the trillions, not even counting his vast real estate holdings. If you tallied it all up, he could probably buy a small country. But this was a wish fulfillment novel, not reality. And in this world, no matter how rich the villain was, he was just a stepping stone for the hero. Asher could never wrap his head around it. Why would the original Asher, an untouchable billionaire playboy, throw it all away to become a desperate simp for the female lead? A female lead who always wore a scowl, as if the whole world owed her something. And of course, the hero used this as his opening to swoop in and become her champion, positioning himself as Asher's rival. Asher took a moment to process the crushing reality of his situation, then asked, System, what chapter are we on right now? Replying to host, Asher's proposal, Leo's intervention, and utter humiliation. Shit, no wonder I'm in my office. Damn it, System, you should have told me earlier. I'm gonna miss Serafina getting off work. Asher cursed, straightening his suit jacket before storming out the door. As he walked through the open-plan office, employees greeted him with a chorus of Mr. Vance. He gave him a curt nod, striding into the executive elevator. Moments later, he was in the underground parking garage, sliding into his flashy red Ferrari 488. On the passenger seat sat a beautifully wrapped ring box. It looked stunning, a picture of pure luxury. In reality, it contained a fake diamond, the kind of plastic crap you could get from a gumball machine for a few bucks. He knew Serafina would never accept it, so why waste money on the real thing? If she actually took it, that would be a real problem. After a final adjustment of his tie, Asher sped off towards the female leads company building. He pulled up in the heart of Manhattan's financial district, where every square inch of pavement was worth a fortune. The flashy red Ferrari came to a stop in front of a gleaming CBD skyscraper. Asher glanced at his Jaeger-LeCoultre Master Ultra-Thin watch. Perfect timing, he muttered. He grabbed the elegant little ring box from the passenger seat and stepped out of the car. Sir, you can't park here. Oh, Mr. Vance. A security guard who had started to approach him immediately clammed up. A nobody like him was nothing in the face of Asher Vance. His job could vanish with a single word. You're just in time, Asher said, tossing the man his keys. Park it for me. He knew the guards here were trained to handle high-end vehicles. The guard stared, dumbfounded, at the Ferrari key fob in his hand. With surveillance cameras everywhere and GPS tracking in the car, Asher wasn't worried about theft. He strode into the lobby, and in moments, a stunning figure appeared before him. Even though he was the story's second male lead and primary villain, you couldn't deny that Asher Vance was ridiculously handsome. He had the kind of charm that made women swoon. Ignoring the excited whispers of the women around him, Asher forced his gaze onto Serafina Hayes. He plastered a desperate, simp-worthy smile on his face and strode toward her. Serafina, this ring is a symbol of my love for you. Are you free for lunch? Let's go eat together. Serafina's elegant eyebrows knitted together. She was just about to reject him flatly when a series of voices echoed in her mind. Ugh, this is making me want to puke. If it weren't for the plot, you couldn't pay me to make this face. Hurry up and say no, so I can get this scene over with. Wait, no. I have to grovel a bit more, stall until the hero, Leo Flynn, shows up to put me in my place. God, this stupid plot. I already did this once. This is the worst kind of deja vu. Whoever ends up with you must have the worst luck in the universe. You're such an ice queen, acting like everyone owes you $1 million. Asher didn't even need the system's prompting. He was already roasting the plot with a vengeance. His resentment was even stronger this time around. If it wasn't for that program error, he'd be back in his own world by now. Just as he was starting to suspect the system was screwing with him on purpose, a cold, mechanical tone, audible only to him, sounded in his mind. Ding. Congratulations, host. Charisma +3. Asher's eyes lit up. The system hadn't failed him. A wave of satisfaction washed over him. But Serafina, standing before him, was completely bewildered. She glanced around, saw that no one else was speaking, and then shot Asher a deeply strange look. Asher froze. Seeing that she hadn't taken the ring, but also hadn't immediately rejected him, his heart skipped a beat. Steeling himself, he pushed the fake diamond ring toward her again. Serafina, please. I want you to have this. Lady, I am begging you to stick to the script. Frown, look disgusted, and tell me to get lost. Don't just stand there staring at me with that dumbfounded expression. What are you looking at? Is there something on my face? Without thinking, Asher reached up and touched his own cheek. Puffed. Hearing his inner thoughts and seeing the gesture, Serafina couldn't help but let out a small laugh. The smile was like a spring breeze, completely transforming her usually icy demeanor. She was known for being cold and aloof. To see her laugh was, in a word, unprecedented. The onlookers in the lobby were stunned. Holy crap, did Ms. Hayes just smile? Am I seeing things? I've been working here for 5 years, and that's the first time I've ever seen her laugh. Her smile is beautiful. She and Mr. Vance look so good together. The murmurs reached Serafina's ears. She took a moment to compose herself, trying to confirm that the voice in her head wasn't just a hallucination. Deliberately, she reached out her hand toward Asher. Give me the ring, she said coolly. You're giving it to me, aren't you? Why are you still holding it? Asher blinked, utterly confused. He mumbled under his breath, wait, you actually want it. The words were barely a whisper. Serafina's brow furrowed. What did you say? Nothing. Asher shook his head, his hand trembling as he placed the small box in her palm. With so many people watching, he had to play along to avoid breaking character. As Serafina took the box, she herself seemed a little dazed. Is this some kind of reverse psychology? She wondered. Or was I really just hearing things? The next moment, reality confirmed it wasn't a hallucination. She was, without a doubt, hearing Asher Vance's inner thoughts. Oh my god, oh my god. The female lead has finally lost it. She actually took my ring. Seraphina, are you sick? Are you feeling okay? Seriously, if you're sick, I'll take you to a hospital right now. Maybe you're just overworked. Don't let the stress get to your head. Seraphina's brow twitched, and she glared at him, a flicker of anger in her eyes. You're the one who's sick. Your whole family is sick. What plot? What female lead? You're the one who's gone crazy. Asher felt her hostile gaze and brightened internally. Yes, yes, that's the look. There you go, Seraphina. Now you're acting like a normal person again. Whoa, that glare could burn a hole through steel. I only asked you to lunch. You didn't even say yes. Is it that serious? Even if you did say yes, it's not like I'd actually want to go. Ahem. Right, that's a plastic ring. Can you get it back? I need to go to the hardware store, the jewelry store, and get you a real one. Ding. Congratulations, host. Charisma +5. Asher was getting annoyed. Was this system broken too? Why was it only giving him charisma points? Couldn't he get something useful? Worse, if Seraphina opened the box and saw the cheap plastic ring, he'd die of social embarrassment on the spot. He had to get it back. On second thought, take this back. We can do lunch another time, Seraphina said coldly, handing the box back to him. She already disliked Asher. Rejecting him was only natural. Hearing his thoughts wasn't going to change her mind. What infuriated her now was the discovery that he was trying to fool her with a plastic ring. Her mind was a mess, and to keep him from realizing she knew something was up, she decided to retreat for now. Asher wanted to pull her into a hug and plant a huge kiss on her cheek. Ha ha ha. Seraphina, you're not crazy. Thank God. I was honestly about to drive you to the nearest psychiatric ward, but it looks like that won't be necessary. Now, where's that moronic hero, Leo Flynn? It's time for him to make his entrance. That dumb woman will probably go to her grave never knowing this was a fake ring. Seraphina's eyelid twitched. She couldn't stand here a second longer, listening to the hurricane of nonsense in his head. She was starting to think she wasn't the crazy one. He was. Yes. Finally, he's here. In the world of trashy web novels, certain surnames were practically reserved for heroes. Flynn, Scott, Knight, Stone. And the hero of this particular novel was, of course, a Flynn. Vengeful, petty, and a real piece of work. Dressed in a security guard's uniform, he strode towards them. Asher immediately began to mentally rehearse the hero's upcoming lines. All right, asshole, get over here and say your lines. Asher, didn't I tell you to stop bothering Ms. Hayes? Or my word just wind? Seraphina glanced at Asher, a flicker of doubt in her eyes. She tried to convince herself she was overthinking it, that this was all just Asher's own fantasy. But in the next second, Leo Flynn spoke. Asher, didn't I tell you to stop bothering Ms. Hayes? Or are my words just wind? Impressive. Spoken like a true hero. The walking, talking bulldozer god of war does not disappoint. Asher, concealing his inner glee, delivered his own line. Leo, you need to remember your place. You're just a security guard. Who the hell do you think you are, talking to me like that? You want to lose your job? Because I can make that happen in a heartbeat. Huh, Ms. Hayes gave me this job, not the Vance family. Your reach doesn't extend that far, does it? To Seraphina's utter astonishment, Leo replied with a dismissive smirk, echoing Asher's thoughts verbatim. Huh, Ms. Hayes gave me this job, not the Vance family. Your reach doesn't extend that far, does it? Asher feigned rage and continued the script. Listen to me, Flynn. This is between me and Seraphina. Stay out of it, you stray dog. Huh, Ms. Hayes doesn't like you. Do yourself a favor and go back to your fiancé. Leo, huh? Ms. Hayes doesn't like you. Do yourself a favor and go back to your fiancé. The two men continued to bicker. Asher was just trying to get through the scene, while Leo, seeing Seraphina being harassed, saw his chance to play the hero, to show off his masculine bravado and rescue the damsel in distress. It was his opportunity to leave a lasting impression on her. This was all part of, as written by the hack author. Soon, it would escalate into their first physical confrontation. The backstory was that the simpering villain, Asher, constantly bothered the female lead. The female lead, Seraphina, by chance had seen the hero, Leo, and, impressed by his physique or whatever, hired him as a security guard. The main reason was that no one else dared to stand up to Asher Vance. But Leo did. A hero standing up to a villain? It was the most cliché plot point imaginable. But Seraphina, a character living inside the story, had no idea. To her, Leo just seemed braver than everyone else. In the original novel, to get Asher off her back for good, she even asked Leo to pretend to be her boyfriend. It was another tired trope from the God of War/Dragon King genre. But now, for Seraphina, it was different. A thunderclap seemed to go off in her head, not just stunning her, but completely shattering her reality. To predict what Leo would say once, she could write it off as a lucky guess. A second time, she could still try to rationalize it. But a third, fourth, a seventh time? There was no explaining that away. She recalled Asher's earlier thoughts. Seraphina's body trembled almost imperceptibly as she whispered to herself, so quietly that no one could hear, "Is everything around me fake? Is this just a novel? And am I, the female lead, destined to fall in love with this man, Leo?" Here it comes. The hero's signature move, the smug, crooked smirk. This dumb woman, Seraphina, is supposed to be totally conquered by that stupid smile. I could die laughing. Leo suddenly felt a pair of eyes on him and realized it was Seraphina. Seeing that he had her attention, he let his lips curl into what he imagined was a devastatingly handsome, bad boy smirk. "Don't worry, Ms. Hayes. As long as I'm here, I won't let this lowlife lay a single finger on you." Ugh. Without hearing Asher's inner commentary, Seraphina might have just found Leo's smile a bit odd, but within the realm of acceptable human expression. But seeing it now, through the lens of Asher's mockery, good God, was that a smile a normal person could even make? Looking at Leo's supremely confident face, Seraphina felt a wave of nausea. Bile rose in her throat. She had the sudden urge to vomit. Unbeknownst to them, the happiest person in the lobby was Asher. All his relentless roasting was finally paying off. "Ding! Congratulations, host. You have been awarded the ancient martial art, Iron Mantle. Mastery has been automatically granted." Asher was ecstatic. A faint crackling sound came from his bones as his body subtly shifted, changes only he could feel. The soft paunch on his stomach vanished, replaced instantly by an 8-pack of solid abs and a perfectly defined V-line. He felt stronger, more powerful. It wasn't an offensive martial art, but at this moment, Asher at least knew he wouldn't feel any pain when the script called for him to get beaten up. Ancient martial arts existed in this world, known only to a select few. The hero, Leo, had become a god of war by learning a set of techniques from some old man he'd saved. In other words, his cheat code was a wise old master. Asher's cheat code was a moronic AI. Well, an artificial intelligence system. That was how he saw it. "All right, you won't leave? Then don't blame me for teaching you a lesson," Leo said, his anger flaring. As a god of war, he wasn't used to being defied. Back in his mercenary days, he would have had a trust fund punk like this eliminated without a second thought. He could have even done it himself. But this was the U.S., and he had just returned. He hadn't established his footing yet, so he had to be careful. Still, roughing Asher up a bit was fine, as long as he didn't kill him. Asher could barely contain his joy. He just got an Iron Mantle from the system, and he was already getting a chance to use it. "I'm warning you, Seraphina is my woman. She's not someone a pathetic security guard like you can ever have. What are you waiting for? Just hit me already. Come on. Punch me. Punch me. You can have this brainless woman. I don't even care. After you beat me up, her affection for you will skyrocket. Come on, you idiot god of war. Hit me with your best shot." Asher's heart pounded with anticipation. To Leo, this was just the final, desperate defiance of a man who couldn't win a woman he loved. "Your bodyguards aren't here. You should think about the consequences of your actions," Leo sneered. Even if Asher's bodyguards were present, they were just a bunch of amateurs. Compared to him, they were a joke. The last time they clashed, Leo had easily taken them all down. He hadn't hit Asher directly then because there were too many witnesses. But now he wasn't afraid, especially since the female lead, Seraphina, wasn't around to see it. Wait, if she was watching, he'd be even more inclined to do it. A hero would never pass up a chance to score points with the female lead, right? Asher was cursing internally. This guy is so long-winded. Just get on with it. You think you can break us up with your fists? Let me tell you, plenty of people have tried to keep me and Seraphina apart. You're not the first, and you won't be the last. Asher, fearing the god of war hero might have a brain fart like Seraphina and decide not to hit him, ad-libbed an extra line to provoke him. After all, the novel spotlight was always on the hero Leo. Asher, the villain, only got screen time when he was needed for a face-slapping scene. The rest of the time, he was free to do as he pleased, which usually meant slacking off. "Wow, Mr. Vance is so devoted. Who is this security guard? Just because he's kinda handsome, he thinks he can break up Mr. Vance and Miss Hayes." "Exactly. You don't mess with other people's relationships. It's their business. Why is he sticking his nose in it? This guy is just looking for trouble. Whoever hired him should fire him immediately." Ms. Hayes hired him. "Whoa, you trying to get me fired? Never mind. I have to go grab lunch. Be right back." The crowd of onlookers buzzed with commentary. Lunch could wait. A real-life soap opera featuring a CEO and a billionaire heir? That was a rare treat. Many chose to stay and watch the drama unfold. The crowd started pointing at Leo, muttering criticisms. This infuriated the proud god of war. A storm of rage began to build inside him. He was a man who held a grudge. The slightest insult could provoke his vengeance. When had he ever been treated with such disrespect? Overseas, powerful figures treated him with the utmost reverence. He wasn't used to this. Leo kept repeating to himself, "They don't know who I am. It's not their fault. They don't know." He had to keep his cool, especially with Serafina watching. Otherwise, he would have walked away already. As the Dragon King, leader of the Dragon's Den, when had he ever swallowed such an insult? Willingly working as a security guard just to get close to a beautiful woman was something he never would have done in the past. It just went to show how captivating Serafina truly was. Oh, for the love of God, if you're gonna hit me, just do it. Stop dithering. Just throw the damn punch. I've never seen such a pathetic hero. Or did my second time through break him too? Is he as messed up as the female lead now? One idiot. Asher was in agony. He wanted to march over and slap Leo himself. Stop wasting my time, you moron. But attacking first would break his pathetic simp character. He was in a bind. Thankfully, the moment of torment was brief. Dawn was on the horizon. Fine, you asked for this. Leo could no longer stand the crowd's murmurs. He decided to teach Asher a lesson first and deal with the fallout later. Doing it in front of Serafina would probably score him more points with her anyway. Conquering an Ice Queen was the ultimate prize. And Leo was a very patient man. Or, to put it more simply, a horn dog. Asher's breathing quickened. He internally activated his iron mantle. He was excited, but also a little nervous. Would this system-gifted skill actually block Leo's punch? Just as Leo's fist was about to connect with Asher's body, a cold, sharp voice cut through the air. Stop! Leo's hand froze midair. If it had been anyone else, he would have ignored them. As a god of war, as the Dragon King, he didn't take orders. He'd rather die. But the person who spoke was Serafina. Reluctantly, Leo halted his attack. He looked at her, surprised. Ms. Hayes, I thought you hated this guy. I'm just teaching him a lesson for you. It's no big deal. Serafina's eyes were like ice. I don't like repeating myself. Did you not hear me say stop? The lobby fell silent. This was the first time anyone had ever seen Serafina Hayes defend Asher Vance. The onlookers were floored. What the F-U-C-K? Are you insane? If you're sick, go get help. Don't spout nonsense here. Your crooked smile Dragon King husband is right. He wants to teach me a lesson. What's it to you? I'm warning you. Stay out of things that aren't your business. Asher felt his entire worldview collapsing. Had the female lead taken the wrong meds today? Or was it that time of the month? Why was she suddenly taking the villain's side? He wanted to cry. He didn't need her to defend him. He needed her to glare at him, to scream, "Get away from me. I hate you." Don't get him wrong. Asher was a normal guy with no strange kinks. He just wanted to follow the damn script. Oh my God, am I seeing things? Ms. Hayes actually defended Mr. Vance. Is that the same Ms. Hayes I know? I think Ms. Hayes did the right thing. Look at who Mr. Vance is and who that guy is. He was actually going to hit him. The nerve. This is a fight between titans. What's a little shrimp like him doing getting involved? Hilarious. The tide of public opinion turned completely in Asher's favor. The hero's passive plot-induced stupidity aura, which normally made onlookers act like morons, wasn't working. Usually, if a normal person hit someone, they'd go to jail. But when the hero did it, crowds would cheer him on, and girls would swoon. It was a classic power fantasy trope. Asher was dumbfounded. This wasn't right. System, what is wrong with these people? Ding. Host, you have automatically equipped the anti-plot-induced stupidity aura. Any person, event, or object within a 5-meter radius of you will experience a reduced effect from the hero's plot-induced stupidity aura. Of course, Serafina couldn't hear this conversation with the system, nor could she hear the reward notifications. The only thing she could hear was Asher's roasting of the plot. Neither of them knew this. What the hell, system? You can't do this to me. Take this aura away now. I don't need these people on my side, defending me. Aren't they supposed to be pointing at me, the villain, and talking about how cool the hero is? Asher was losing his mind. This wasn't in the script he'd been given. He had his lines ready, and his scenes were limited. Now these people were ad-libbing, and they were ad-libbing scenes where they defended the villain against the hero. Asher desperately wanted to ask them, did you guys get the wrong script? Leo was stunned. He looked at Serafina, bewildered. Ms. Hayes, I thought you hated him. As the Dragon King, he had his pride. He would never tolerate the woman he was interested in defending another man. Serafina had just crossed a major line. Serafina stared at him coldly. Who I hate is none of your business. Her words left Leo speechless. Right now, he wasn't the all-powerful god of war. He was just a security guard in a CBD tower. A flicker of ruthlessness crossed Leo's eyes. The colder Serafina was, the more it stoked the primal desire within him. He was going to conquer this woman completely and utterly. Hello, Crooked Smile Dragon King? Are you an idiot? Serafina's lost her mind, and you're going along with it? She tells you not to hit me, and you just stop. You're supposed to be the invincible god of war, and you're listening to a woman? A woman who's dumber than a box of rocks. And you, Serafina, I told you, if you're sick, go get treatment. Stop messing everything up. I don't want your help. Just let your Dragon King husband hit me. You're the female lead. You and the hero are on the same team. I'm the villain. Asher was screaming internally, wishing he could march up to Serafina and say all this to her face. But he didn't have to. Standing right there, Serafina heard every word. Her body trembled, and her eyes looked like they could shoot flames. Even if this was a book, she had had enough of Asher repeatedly calling her stupid. You're the one on the same team as the hero. She muttered, her eyes murderous, ready to shout the words out loud. But the next moment, she realized no sound was coming out. Her lips moved, but to everyone else, it just looked like she was quietly pursing them. Nothing more. Before, Serafina had been skeptical, treating Asher's inner voice with a dose of disbelief. People always find ways to rationalize the impossible. The idea that the world she'd lived in for over 20 years was just a novel was too much for anyone to accept. But now she believed it. She completely and utterly believed it. She tried again and found she was still unable to speak about anything related to the novel's plot. In other words, this was a secret she could know, but could never share. Serafina stood there, lost in a daze. Meanwhile, Leo had noticed someone in the crowd pointing a phone at him. His anger spiked. He pointed at the person and yelled, "What do you think you're doing?" "What? A security guard trying to assault the heir to the Vance Corporation? I'm about to make you famous." The person shot back. "Yeah, go on, hit him. What are you scared?" "I'm waiting for the show," someone else chimed in, also pulling out their phone. Leo's brow furrowed, but then his expression cleared. It all made sense now. He looked at Serafina with gratitude. She wasn't trying to protect Asher. She was trying to protect him from being filmed and having the video go viral online. Asher saw this and drew a sharp breath. Well, I'll be damned. The female lead, playing 4D chess. So devious, so cunning. My apologies, Serafina. I misjudged you. You're still you, still the female lead who's on the same team as the hero. Asher was immensely relieved. He thought the female lead's character had collapsed. Turns out, he was just overthinking it. Seeing the heroine secretly helping the hero put his mind at ease. His thoughts pulled the dazed Serafina back to reality. Her anger surged, boiling over. On the same team as the hero? If I'm on a team with anyone, it's going to be with you. Just to piss you off, you bastard. Serafina shot Asher a venomous glare, then turned on her heel and marched out of the building. She needed to calm down to process this impossible reality. That would take time, and if she stayed here with Asher any longer, she was sure her lungs would explode from sheer rage. She wouldn't be annoyed to death by his simpering. She'd be angered to death by his inner monologue. Serafina, don't go. You haven't answered my question. Asher called out, making a token effort to stop her, his face once again a mask of lovesick devotion. Inside, he was laughing his ass off. After Serafina left, Leo shot Asher a triumphant, smug smirk. If he were just a security guard, he would never dare to act so arrogantly in front of the most powerful heir in the city, the future head of the Vance Corporation. He was the first heir because he had a younger sister, currently studying abroad, who wouldn't appear in the story for another 2 weeks. Wow, Mr. Vance is so devoted. I really don't get why Ms. Hayes isn't interested in a man as amazing as him. Come on, Ashley, you're just interested in the Vance family fortune, aren't you? Sure. You want to get me fired? So what if I am? Besides, Mr. Vance is gorgeous. With a rich and handsome husband like that, I wouldn't even care if he fooled around. Is that security guard crazy? Mr. Vance is being the bigger person and not stooping to his level, and he's still glaring at him like that? Insane. I can't stand guys like that. Petty, incompetent, and full of themselves. The crowd was deeply moved by Asher's display of affection, especially the women. They all wished they could find a boyfriend like him, but they knew their place. Even Serafina Hayes was arguably reaching above her station by being with him. The Hayes family was nothing compared to the Vances. Plus, Serafina was a once-in-a-generation beauty. While some of them were attractive, they paled in comparison to her. Leo found himself the target of their scorn again, his face flushing with anger and embarrassment. Asher almost felt sorry for the hero. Hey, you guys in the peanut gallery, are you trying to start a rebellion? You're supposed to be simping for the hero, not for me. I'm just a villain. The security guard who had parked Asher's car, Ricky, returned with the key. To everyone's surprise, he walked up to Asher, his expression a mix of excitement and reverence, and respectfully handed him the key fob. Mr. Vance, here's your key. The car is parked in the third spot from the right in the main lot. Thanks, Asher said politely, taking the key. He didn't want to stick around a second longer. Why not go back to his office and slack off? The face-slapping scene from was over. His part was done. Although the process had been bumpy and deviated from script, the end result was the same. The hero had likely scored points with the female lead, and Asher's job was finished. Time to go eat, drink, and be merry. Mr. Vance isn't at all like the spoiled brat the tabloids make him out to be. He's actually so polite. Oh my God, a man that handsome and gentle? I'm in love. Ricky, what was that all about? Why did you have Mr. Vance's key? A coworker asked. Ricky, the security guard, stood up straighter, his chest puffed out with pride. Duh. Mr. Vance asked me to move his car, so of course I had his key. No way. Mr. Vance let a total stranger drive his car? The coworker exclaimed, dumbfounded. The crowd erupted in another wave of discussion. Damn, if I remember correctly, that car is worth millions. A multi-million-dollar supercar. If it were me, I wouldn't even let a stranger breathe on my car, let alone drive it. You want to see what class looks like? That's class. 1,000,000 times better than some short-sighted security guard. Heh, don't say that. There are security guards, and then there are security guards. Some people can do the job without being annoying. Others just manage to get on everyone's nerves. Asher hadn't even fully left the building yet, and could hear the crowd praising him again. He wanted to weep. Was he cursed today, or something? How many times had this happened? He glanced back in Leo's direction and saw the hero's face was beet red, his eyes fixed on Asher with a murderous glare, as if he wanted to tear him limb from limb. Asher just gave him a look that clearly said, "You're an idiot." What a psycho. They're insulting you. What does that have to do with me? And you're blaming me for it? Then again, he was the story's malicious villain. Under the influence of the plot, it was probably normal for the hero's rage to be inexplicably redirected toward him. But Asher couldn't be bothered to deal with him now. His scene was over. He was going to grab a nice meal and then head back to his office for a nap. Humming a cheerful tune, Asher left, his mood vastly improved. Once the main attraction was gone, the office workers in the lobby dispersed, leaving Leo standing alone, his face a thunderous mask of fury. Asher Vance. Vance Corporation, is it? Leo's voice was a low growl. Once I've dealt with my business at the orphanage, I'll settle the score with your family. You dare to compete with me for a woman? Don't blame me when your family ends up ruined and broken. Huh, but first, I'll make the Vance Corporation bleed a little. A glint of sharp light flashed in Leo's eyes, a hint of the god of war's powerful aura leaking out. Unfortunately, no one was there to see it. After a delightful cruise around the city and a lavish lunch, Asher drove back to the company. His character was an heir with some business acumen, a cut above mediocre, but not a genius. The author had designed him this way to make him seem less like a complete moron, which would in turn make the hero's eventual triumph more satisfying. In his previous life, Asher had been a top finance graduate from an Ivy League school. Combined with his knowledge of the novel's plot, expanding the Vance Corporation's empire would be child's play. He could probably take it to unprecedented heights. But he was lazy. Besides, he knew that anything he built would eventually just become another prize for the hero to claim. So he didn't bother. Back in his office, just as Asher was about to embrace his destiny as a dedicated slacker, his female secretary knocked on the door. After getting his permission, she entered. What is it? Asher asked with a lazy yawn. Mr. Vance, the meeting for the acquisition of Apex Properties is about to begin, she said with a slight bow. Asher's mind clicked. The hero's storyline was on pause, but the supporting cast still had scenes to play. This one wasn't a direct, face-slapping moment, but it was close. I'll be there. You can go, Asher replied. After she left, Asher heaved himself out of his plush leather chair. Ugh, he muttered to himself. After this is over, I'm done for the day. I'm not dealing with anyone tonight. With that, he left his office and headed for the conference room. The spacious conference room was already filled with people. But until Asher arrived, even if every single person was present, no one would dare start the meeting. No one would even think of saying a bad word about him. After all, he was the one in charge. Mr. Vance, you're here. Good afternoon, Mr. Vance. Mr. Vance. A chorus of ass-kissing filled the air. This was one of the perks of being the villain. Everywhere you went, people deferred to you, greeted you with smiles. Asher gave a slight nod and took his seat at the head of the long table, the center position. "You're here." A single female voice cut through the sycophancy. Asher glanced at the woman sitting next to him. Instead of getting angry, a small smile touched his lips. "I am," he replied. Seeing her sparked a flicker of sentimentality in him, which was why he smiled. The woman beside him, in terms of looks, figure, and family background, was every bit Seraphina Hayes' equal. Because she was the novel's #1 female villain, Scarlet Jo. Asher took in Scarlet's appearance today. Long, curled eyelashes, a bold crimson lipstick that made a statement, and exquisitely beautiful features. She wore a chic, cream-colored business suit, her long, slender legs wrapped in nude stockings. Her milky white skin looked soft and flawless. The two of them shared a deeper connection. They were engaged. This was the work of Asher's mother, who, fed up with her son's simpering, had arranged a match with a prominent family. The Jo family's background was a step above the Hayes family, though still no match for the Van Cess. The Jos were, naturally, thrilled with the engagement. It was a powerful alliance that would benefit both families. Scarlet had initially held some affection for Asher, but his constant, shameless pursuit of Seraphina, while completely ignoring his stunning fiancée, was a huge slap in the face. Before Asher's public simping, the title of the city's #1 beauty had belonged to Scarlet Jo. His actions had effectively elevated Seraphina to that status. After all, when a nation's most eligible bachelor is publicly obsessed with a woman, the media will happily fan the flames, creating a reputation out of thin air. At the sight of his smile, Scarlet's body stiffened slightly. She looked at him, her eyes wide with surprise. Normally, Asher treated her with cold indifference. Their engagement was a name only. His entire world revolved around Seraphina Hayes. A smile? He'd never once smiled at her. This was a first. Asher drew a sharp breath, realizing his expression was out of character. He immediately wiped the smile from his face and adopted a stern look. "All right, let's begin today's acquisition meeting," he announced to the room. "Mark, explain the rationale for the acquisition, the proposed strategy, and the projected costs. Bring everyone up to speed, myself included." A middle-aged man stood up, smiling. "Yes, sir." He was Mark Lee, the head of Asher's investment department and a Ph.D. graduate from Cambridge. He began to present the meticulously prepared proposal, first outlining the reasons, then the strategy. Everyone in the room listened intently. Everyone, that is, except for Asher and Scarlet. Asher couldn't be bothered to listen because he already knew the plot. Scarlet, on the other hand, was still reeling from his smile. Why did he smile at me just now? And what was that look in his eyes? It was so gentle. She glanced at Asher, but he was once again ignoring her. Scarlet gave a wry, bitter smile. Of course, he hasn't changed. His heart only has room for Seraphina Hayes. Scarlet had already made up her mind. This marriage would never bring her the happiness she craved. She was going to ask for a divorce. After all, she wasn't the only one who wanted out. Asher probably wanted to end the engagement even more than she did. The next moment, however, her expression shifted, because besides Mark Lee's droning voice, she heard something else. Another voice. "Shit, I almost blew it. Good thing I reacted fast and had Mark Starr's spiel. That was a close one. I really don't get it. What was this hack author thinking? Scarlet is a fantastic woman. Why would he write my character as such a moron, ignoring a fiery, gorgeous fiancée to simp for an ice cube? Scarlet is a million times better than Seraphina." Scarlet's reaction was identical to Seraphina's. Utter confusion. The difference was Scarlet knew instantly that the voice belonged to Asher. His voice was too familiar for her to mistake. Her beautiful, almond-shaped eyes locked onto Asher's lips. He wasn't speaking. It didn't take long for her to figure it out. She was hearing his thoughts. As unbelievable as it was, the proof was right in front of her. She had no choice but to accept it. "I'm a good person. I'm perfect. I'm a million times better than Seraphina Hayes." A tidal wave of shock crashed through Scarlet. This was what Asher Vance thought of her. The great heir to the Vance family. The man who had never given her the time of day. This was his true opinion of her. Scarlet felt like the world had gone mad. A flicker of hope, long extinguished, rekindled in her eyes. She had thought Asher was completely uninterested in her. It turned out she was wrong. The cold exterior was all an act. What he truly thought was what mattered. Seraphina was acting weird today. The crooked smile Dragon King was acting weird. Thank God my bombshell of a villainous fiancée, Scarlet, is still normal. If she went crazy too, I'd have nowhere to cry. Wait a minute. Scarlett, why are you looking at me like that? You always ignored me when I ignored you. Why are you staring at me now? Oh no. Please, I'm begging you. Don't short-circuit like the other two. Chapter 8. Feeling Scarlett's intense, burning gaze on him, Asher was genuinely terrified. He wasn't afraid she was going to eat him alive. He was afraid that her character, like the hero and heroines, was about to collapse. That was the one thing he could not accept. Why was he back here? To replay the plot. Not to get his face slapped by the hero all over again, because he had a masochistic itch to scratch. Stop looking at me. Even if you stare, I'll never like you. My heart belongs to Serafina Hayes, and only her. Asher blurted out, leaning into his simp persona, hoping that bringing up Serafina would push Scarlett away. It fit his character. His face was a mask of cold indifference, utterly devoid of emotion. To an outsider, it looked convincing. Scarlett's heart fluttered. She felt a flash of anger and embarrassment, and her first instinct was to look away. But then she heard his inner voice again, and what he was thinking was far more pleasant than what he was saying. Ugh, I think I'm going to be sick. Every time I say Serafina's name, my acid reflux acts up. It's not because I want to be a gold digger. It's just, my stomach really hurts. She can't hold a candle to you. A playful smile touched Scarlett's lips. A flicker of amusement danced in her beautiful eyes as she gazed at this man whose words and thoughts were in complete opposition. Asher was lost again. Who am I? Where am I? What did I do? He hadn't done anything, had he? In the past, whenever he said things like that, Scarlett would turn her head away in a huff. Why was she now doubling down, looking at him like a wolf eyeing a rabbit? This was all wrong. Asher was officially losing his cool. Thinking she must not have heard him clearly, he repeated himself, his tone sharper this time. I said, I don't like you. The only woman in my heart is Serafina Hayes. His voice was a little too loud. Mark Lee, who had been rattling on about the acquisition, abruptly stopped. He looked over at Asher, bewildered. Not just him, but everyone in the conference room turned their heads to stare. Asher was the future of the Vance Corporation. No one would dare criticize him for making a scene in a meeting, and his reputation as Serafina Hayes' simp was well known. Everyone was used to it, but to declare it so bluntly in a meeting, right in front of his fiancée, Scarlett Jo, that was a new level of drama. The entire room was hooked, eagerly waiting to see what would happen next. Would the future Mrs. Vance fly into a rage and storm out? Or would she cause a scene first, then leave? Whatever the process, everyone was certain of the outcome. She would leave, humiliated and furious. But what happened next completely defied their expectations. Ignoring the stares of everyone in the room, Scarlett flashed a devastatingly charming smile. I know, she said sweetly, and I don't mind. Asher was dumbfounded. He stared at her with an expression that screamed, Are you kidding me? The rest of the room was equally stunned. A stampede of a million F-bombs once again galloped through Asher's mind. I mind. Scarlett, can we please not do this? Pretty please. You're the eldest daughter of the Jo family, their future heir. You've been treated like a princess your whole life. How could you possibly be okay with your fiancé being in love with another woman? Where's your pride? Your self-respect? Don't make this difficult for me. I am begging you. Just stick to your character. Don't break, ding. Congratulations, host. Intelligence +1. Asher's inner turmoil was a raging sea, but his face remained a mask. The conference room fell into a dead silence. Puffed. A soft, melodic laugh shattered the quiet. The one laughing was none other than Scarlett Jo. She raised a slender, pale hand to cover her plump, alluring lips, cleared her throat, and said with perfect composure, Continue the meeting. Everyone back to work. Scarlett was, in name, Asher's fiancée. The employees might not have to respect her every whim, but they certainly wouldn't dare disrespect the future Mrs. Vance. The meeting resumed. No one lingered on the little interruption. They were just employees. The drama between the boss and his fiancée was none of their business. They weren't about to risk their jobs by getting involved. Asher's good mood had completely evaporated. His mind raced, trying to figure out where things had gone wrong. The system had promised him the main plot wouldn't change, but ever since he'd been reborn, every character he encountered was acting strangely. Scarlett was now staring at him even more boldly. Who was she? She was a #1 female villain in the Dragon King's Return. In the later stages of the novel, after she embraced her dark side, she became nearly invincible. After Asher's death, she became the new main antagonist, causing no end of trouble for the hero, Leo Flynn. In the end, of course, she couldn't escape the hero's plot armor and met a similarly tragic fate. So, the world I live in is just a novel, Scarlett thought. Interesting. Truly interesting. Asher Vance, You've been hiding your true self quite well. You fooled me for so long. I actually thought my own charm wasn't enough, and that's why you went to simp for that woman. But now I see that's not it at all. Still, I'm curious. Is that Leo Flynn really all that? He's just a security guard, isn't he? Scarlett's eyes narrowed as her thoughts drifted. She accepted this new reality much faster than Serafina had. After all, she could hear his thoughts. There was no scientific explanation for that. And just a moment ago, she had tried to mention something about being a villain to Asher and found she couldn't speak the words aloud. That sealed it. Scarlett and Serafina were fundamentally different. While similar in many ways, Scarlett was decisive and never hesitated. Once she set her mind to something, not even a team of wild horses could drag her back. She would see it through to the end. As the two of them were lost in their own thoughts, the meeting continued. Time ticked by, and soon they reached the final phase. Markley looked at Asher and presented him with a contract signature page. Mr. Vance, he said respectfully, since there are no objections, if you would review the proposal one last time, and if everything is in order, you can sign here. Chapter 9. Asher took the acquisition proposal and pretended to read it carefully. Apex Properties was one of the most established real estate giants in this novel's world. Its annual profits were in the hundreds of billions. In short, it was a golden goose that everyone wanted. Serafina's company was one of the competitors. However, thanks to the Vance Corporation's immense financial power and connections, they had beaten everyone else to the punch. Almost everyone believed this was an incredibly lucrative deal. Acquiring Apex would be a guaranteed win, adding hundreds of billions to their market value. But for Asher, it was anything but. He wants me to look it over. Does he have any idea this is a trap set by the hero, a finance PhD? My ass. Use that pig brain of yours for a second and think. Why would such a successful real estate company suddenly liquidate all of its shares, holding nothing back? You don't think there's something fishy going on? Sigh. This is all part of the hero Leo's plan. He has insider information that no one else has. The government is about to crack down on the real estate market. Not only that, but Apex itself is sitting on a mountain of unfinished, abandoned construction projects. After the acquisition, not only will we not make money, we'll have to sink hundreds of billions of dollars more into it to compensate the people who paid for homes that were never built. It's a goddamn money pit. Asher idly flipped through the pages of the proposal. To everyone else, he looked deeply focused, but Scarlett knew better. She was utterly horrified. What? It's all a trap? If what Asher was thinking was true, then acquiring Apex wouldn't just be a loss. It would be a catastrophic one. It wouldn't cripple them, but it would be a major blow. This was the first major cool moment for the hero in the book. But none of that mattered to Scarlett right now. All she cared about was the fact that she and Asher were about to lose a fortune. Their families were tied together by the engagement. Asher's money was her money, and her money was his. A moment ago, Scarlett had been planning to call off the engagement and go her separate way. But ever since she started hearing his thoughts, everything had changed. Now, there was no way in hell she was breaking up with him. I object to this proposal. A sharp voice cut through the quiet conference room, completely out of place. Mark Lee's eyes bulged. He scanned the room, looking for the idiot who had dared to object. This proposal was his masterpiece, the culmination of countless hours spent calculating how to acquire Apex at the lowest possible price. It was, without exaggeration, the finest work of his career. And some moron was objecting. When his gaze landed on the speaker, he immediately shut his mouth and wiped all expression from his face, pretending he hadn't seen anything. The other executives did the same. The one who had spoken was Scarlett Jo, their boss's fiancée. Asher was completely caught off guard. He looked at Scarlett, his expression one of pure confusion. Oh, for crying out loud. Scarlett, you haven't gone crazy too, have you? Scarlett, what is the meaning of this? Asher demanded. Look at this proposal. It's perfect, flawless. This is the most successful strategy possible. What could you possibly have to object to? Mark Lee shot Asher a look of profound gratitude. Mr. Vance appreciates my work so much. From now on, I will follow him to the ends of the earth. Scarlett was at a loss for words, but she had an ace up her sleeve. She could hear Asher's thoughts. She didn't know the specifics, but he did. Her only goal now was to bait him into thinking them. She took the proposal Asher had handed her and tossed it onto the floor like a piece of trash. Apex Properties has been an industry leader for decades. They've always been profitable. Why would they suddenly sell off all their shares? Hasn't anyone here thought to question that? Thump! Scarlett stood up, her cold gaze sweeping over everyone in the room. To be fair, they had had their doubts. Some had even investigated, but they had come up with nothing. This was partly due to the hero's plot-induced stupidity aura affecting the whole world, and partly because they could only access publicly available information. Mark Lee felt it was his duty to stand up and defend his position. After all, Asher had shown such faith in his talent. He had to do something. Ms. Zhou, the owner of Apex, is planning to immigrate, and there's been a lot of infighting among the family members. They decided to liquidate and go their separate ways. Ahem. The owner of Apex has many wives and children, not to mention mistresses. There are already a dozen potential heirs, and recently the media exposed another 7 or 8 illegitimate children who came forward. It's a huge mess. But setting that aside, their company is ranked 9th in national real estate sales and has been profitable for over a decade straight. They currently have over $100 billion in liquid assets. The housing market has slowed recently, but they're still turning a profit. I believe that speaks to their strength. Don't you agree? Huh. Spoken like my number one stooge. So well-reasoned, so confident, and so completely brain-dead. You only see their profits. You didn't bother to check their properties in other cities. The only projects selling well are here in New York. Everywhere else, their developments are turning into abandoned husks. They take the money and run. As for the $100 billion in liquid assets, we think this is a GoFundMe. If you investigate a little deeper, you'll find it's a short-term loan from an overseas lender. It's basically a loan shark. They'll have to pay it back double. No, triple. But what does any of this have to do with me? If we lose money, we lose money. There's no way Scarlett could figure this out, let alone this bunch of idiots. Whatever. Time to pop some champagne and celebrate. Clap, clap, clap. Suddenly, applause broke out in the conference room. Asher stood up clapping. He was a master actor now. Every expression and gesture perfectly natural. It was a useless skill the system had given him at the beginning to help him get through the plot. With a man like Mark Lee on my team, how can a Vance Empire not prosper? He declared. Someone call my assistant. Have her bring the vintage champagne from my office. Today, we celebrate. Chapter 10 with Asher leading the applause. The conference room erupted in a thunderous ovation. The Vance Corporation belonged to the Vances, not the Zhous. The boss himself had given his approval. The matter was settled. When Asher made a decision, Scarlett usually didn't challenge it. Even if she did, he wouldn't listen. Not unless she had an absolutely airtight argument. But Scarlett, now armed with the truth, was shaken to her core. It all made perfect sense. A moment ago, when she'd heard Asher's thoughts about intentionally losing money, she had wanted to strangle her fiancé. Most people were desperately trying to make money, and here he was actively trying to lose it. Scarlett had never read any novels, but she had heard Asher call her the female villain. In that case, she would be the best damn villain she could be. It was only right. Oomph. Mark Lee, you have some nerve. Bang! Scarlett slammed her hand on the table. The sound was deafening, instantly capturing everyone's attention. The room fell silent again, utterly bewildered. In the past, even when she disagreed with Asher's decisions, Scarlett would turn a blind eye. Why was she acting like a completely different person today? The most baffled of all was Asher, who knew Scarlett's original character better than anyone. He felt like crying. Scarlett, can we please talk about this calmly? Stop breaking your character. You never cared about the Vance Corporation's business before. Stop making trouble. Just be good. Mark Lee shot Asher a pleading look. If Scarlett couldn't provide a reason for her objection, she was just causing trouble. As the boss, and as a purist of the original novel, Asher would absolutely not tolerate anyone making unauthorized changes to the script. This wasn't a fanfiction free-for-all. Stop ad-libbing, you damn. Asher's face darkened, his expression perfectly calibrated to look genuinely angry. Scarlett, what is the meaning of this? My patience has its limits. Faced with Asher's menacing glare, Scarlett was completely unfazed. She knew her little man wasn't as scary as he looked. His inner monologue was far more adorable and dorky than his outward performance. Plus, she had evidence. Mark Lee, why are you so focused on acquiring Apex properties instead of pursuing other real estate companies? Are their buildings better than everyone else's? Or are you getting a kickback under the table? And that $100 billion in liquid assets? What if it's just debt they borrowed from an outside source? Scarlett's words struck like lightning, leaving Mark Lee speechless. A collective gasp went through the room. The executives exchanged horrified glances. It was a terrifying thought. They had been so focused on the immediate profit, so blinded by Apex's reputation, that they had assumed it was a surefire win. They never considered this possibility. It wasn't entirely their fault. The hero, Leo Flynn, had paid for a massive, covert marketing campaign to hype up the deal, creating a frenzy among the city's elite families and giving the illusion of scarcity. In that kind of environment, rational thinking went out the window. Asher stared at Scarlett, as if she were an alien. Have I gone crazy, or have you? How do you know all of this? This shouldn't be possible. Asher was completely baffled. Being watched by her fiancé, Scarlett felt a little blush creep up her neck, but she met his gaze boldly, showing him her best side. That's right, I don't know any of this. But you do, my sweet, darling husband. Scarlett was secretly thrilled, using the information from Asher's own mind to show off in front of him. And seeing his shocked expression, that feeling was better than making $1 billion. Mark Lee felt deeply humiliated. He decided to double down. Ms. Joe, that's all just speculation. How can you be so certain? First, his proposal had been thrown on the floor like trash. Now, he was being publicly interrogated. He needed evidence. Without proof, he couldn't accept her claims. His courage to question her came not from his own conviction, but from the praise Asher had just shown him. Plus, this was Vance territory. That gave him the confidence to be bold. Asher shot his underling a grateful look, as if to say, nice work. Mark Lee saw his boss's approval and felt a surge of joy. Scarlett crossed her arms, a hint of the formidable business tycoon she would become flashing in her eyes. We can have someone look into it, can't we? Apex's sales in New York are strong, but what about in other cities? What about their performance in smaller markets? Did you check that? I'm guessing you didn't. Her words were like a surgeon's scalpel, cutting through the darkness and letting in a sliver of light. It was a wake-up call. Even the densest person in the room could see something was wrong. Mark Lee's hands began to tremble. If the acquisition went through, and everything Scarlett said was true, then he, the one who proposed the plan, will be held responsible for the massive loss. He would undoubtedly face legal action. The Vance Corporation had a formidable legal department. He was looking at decades in prison. The thought sent a chill down his spine. And in fact, that was pretty much how his story was supposed to end. How did you know all of this? Asher asked, his expression a little unnatural. Scarlett was momentarily stumped. Right, how did I know this top secret information? But in the next second, she had an answer ready. Or rather, an answer Asher had provided for her via his inner thoughts. They were practically married already. Using his ideas couldn't be considered stealing. I've never heard of Scarlett having her own intelligence network. Even if she did, the Zhou family isn't powerful enough to gather this level of intel. Something's not right. Something is definitely wrong here. Or maybe this woman isn't the Scarlett Zhou I know at all. A smile played on Scarlett's lips. Her voice was pure seduction. My apologies. The Zhou family came across this information recently. You're not mad that I'm only telling you now, are you? Damn it. The female villain has gone crazy too. Asher's worldview was crumbling. He put on a stern face. You could have chosen not to tell me. I was really, truly hoping you wouldn't say anything. That you'd just be a quiet little wallflower until the meeting was over. God, what a pain in the ass. But since you chose to tell me, Asher said, making a token gesture, if this information turns out to be true, you'll be a hero to the Vance family. You'll be handsomely rewarded. He couldn't exactly announce to a room full of people that he wanted to lose money and that no one was allowed to stop him. If he did that, forget about the other characters breaking their roles. The villain would have just self-destructed. Scarlett looked at Asher with eyes full of affection. Her sensual lips parted in a smile. What hero? You're my husband. Helping you is helping myself. Asher's heart nearly leaped out of his chest. Not from affection, but from pure, unadulterated shock. Look at you. Are you even human? How can you say something like that? Asher slipped back into his simp persona, his voice dripping with cold disdain. How many times do I have to tell you? I only love Serafina Hayes. Are you deaf? If you are, I'll have someone take you to a doctor after this. Just when everyone expected Scarlett's universe to explode, her reaction once again defied all expectations. She linked her arm through his, an incredibly intimate gesture, and flashed a smile that could make any man's heart stop. Then, she said the words every man in the world dreams of hearing. I don't mind. You loving her is your business. Me loving you is my business. After we're married, if you've got the guts, you can even bring Serafina home for dinner with us. The entire conference room was stunned into silence, including Asher Vance himself. Scarlett Zhou, one of New York City's most sought-after and brilliant heiresses, was actually genuinely willing to let her fiancé bring another woman home. If she were some powerless trophy wife, that would be one thing. But Scarlett was no trophy wife. She was a top-tier Ivy League graduate who, after entering the workforce, had used her unique insights and formidable strategies to add a staggering $2 billion in net profit to her family's company in a single year. Shouldn't a woman that powerful have her own dignity, her own temper? Asher quickly pulled his arm away from the she-devil's grasp. He took the champagne flute his assistant offered, his expression frozen, staring at Scarlett as if he'd been turned to stone. In that one moment, it all clicked into place. The plot had collapsed, utterly and completely. This was a nightmare-level opening, a total train wreck. How was he supposed to follow the script now? System, get out here and explain this, he thought, practically screaming into the void. In response to the host, due to the world reset, some character personalities may exhibit minor deviations. This will require the host to improvise. Minor details can be altered, but major plot points cannot. Please proceed at your own discretion. The system will not interfere with any choices or decisions related to the host. As for whether you can return to your world, that will depend on the final score you receive after completing the entire plot. Asher felt his sanity fraying. That's the same as saying nothing at all. What the hell do you mean? Minor details can be altered, but major plot points cannot. The very next scene is supposed to be Leo Flynn's first big moment, where he gets to humiliate me. That's gone now. You don't call that a major plot point. He called out to the system several more times, but it was as if it had vanished completely. Not a single response. He'd heard of absentee bosses, but an absentee system? That was a new one. The irony was infuriating. When he snapped back to reality, Scarlett was still gazing at him with those impossibly soft eyes. The plot's derailment, the collapse of her character, it all left Asher feeling a surge of irritation. He waved a dismissive hand. Fine. You might not mind, but I do. I'm so screwed. Scarlett's broken too. Oh, sweet heaven, what did I do to deserve this? I need to find a bar later. Find some good music, relax. Ding. Congratulations, host. You have received plus $300,000 cash. Buzz. The phone in Asher's pocket vibrated with a text notification. He just blinked. Did he look like he was short on cash? To a normal person, 300 grand might be a windfall, but to him, it was pocket change. So adorable. How did I never notice before? Scarlett smiled, her gaze a little dazed as she looked at Asher's transparently fake rejection. Asher shot back, annoyed. Scarlett, are you sick? You want me to take you to a hospital? He meant it. At this point, he had no idea what his next move should be. Of course. I actually haven't been feeling well lately. You should take me to the hospital right now. You can even hold my hand while I get my four. Scarlett linked her arm through his again, leaning against him and rocking gently. Her smile was that of a mischievous pixie who had just mastered a new spell, the kind of enchanting look that could charm a man to death. Asher sucked in a sharp breath. The feeling of his elbow pressed against something soft and warm was distracting. Scarlett was seriously stacked. But no matter what happened, nothing would shake his resolve to see the original plot through to the end. With a look of disgust, he pried the she-devil's hand off his arm and feigned anger. What are you talking about? I'm not a doctor. How would I know what kind of four you need? Scarlett licked her fire-engine red lips and gave him a playful wink. But you are a doctor. My doctor. Only you can cure this ache in my heart. The only prescription I need is a long night thinking of you. A pickup line so cheesy it should have come with crackers. And hearing it from the female villain? Asher's embarrassment was so intense, he felt like his skull might actually fly off. His entire worldview was shattering. What was it like hearing a cringy pickup line from a villainess? Apparently, it was this. The rest of the room was getting a front row seat to this. Whatever it was. And it was coming from their boss and the boss's fiancée. What are you all looking at? Don't you have work to do? Asher snapped, trying to change the subject by feigning fury at his incompetent team. Who's going to investigate the Apex property situation? When the villainess started flirting, he really couldn't handle it. Knowing the novel and having lived through the plot once, Asher knew Scarlett was a passionate, volcanic beauty. Give her an inch, and she'd take a continent. Ahem. Yes, Mr. Vance. We'll get right on it. Right? The Apex deal is critical. We have to investigate immediately. Mr. Vance, Ms. Joe, we'll take our leave. The executives scurried out, their faces a mixture of awkwardness and amusement. They couldn't believe their boss's fiancée was so progressive, allowing him to bring other women home. They thought of their own wives, and suddenly their worlds felt very small. As Scarlett watched them go, her mood was obviously buoyant. She called out with a brilliant smile, "From now on, don't call me Ms. Joe. Address me as Mrs. Vance." The departing staff froze, their eyes darting to Asher. Asher's eye twitched. "Don't you dare," he commanded. "I want to see who's brave enough to call her that. Getting tired of your corner office, are you?" "Huh. It's going to happen sooner or later." Scarlett shot back, refusing to yield. "My identity right now is your fiancé." They went back and forth, bickering like an old married couple. The department heads wanted to cry. Can you two flirt and fight without dragging us into it? They didn't hesitate any longer, practically sprinting out of the room to escape the crossfire. Too much of this public display of affection was bad for the digestion. Scarlet, what is the meaning of this? Asher raised his hand as if to strike her, his expression ferocious, genuinely looking like he'd been pushed to the edge. Of course, Asher would never dream of actually hitting a woman. He was just trying to scare her off, to make her affection for him plummet. Damn it, this is insane. I'm always cold to you. I have never done anything to raise your affection score. What is it you even like about me? Tell me, so I can change it. See this hand? It's about to fly. Get angry and leave before you force me to use it. Okay, I really can't hit a woman, especially not you. Now, if you were Seraphina Hayes, maybe I already would have. Every one of Asher's frantic inner thoughts landed crystal clear in Scarlet's ears. A beautiful curve formed on her lips, and a warmth spread through her chest. She leaned in closer, a fragrant perfume wafting into his nose. She turned her cheek toward him slightly. Go on, hit me. If you really have a heart, then do it. Her challenge, her willingness to meet his aggression head-on, left Asher completely and utterly dumbfounded once again. This stupid plot isn't supposed to mess with me like this. Vance Corporation's intelligence division was lethally effective. When they were tasked with digging up information, they got results fast. After all, Asher had spared no expense, hiring world-class talent to staff it. Back in the conference room, Asher paced anxiously. He knew that in a short time, his people would follow the breadcrumbs, realize something was rotten with Apex Properties, and report back to him. With everyone watching, even as the villain, he couldn't just knowingly walk into a trap, no matter how much he wanted the protagonist to have his moment. Villains weren't supposed to be complete morons. If they didn't have a few brain cells, the readers wouldn't buy it. Even the author's setup was designed to make the plot feel plausible, to meet the standards of a satisfying takedown. Pop! The sound of a champagne cork being freed echoed in the room. Asher turned to see the she-devil herself opening a bottle of his prized vintage, casually pouring the sparkling liquid into 2 flutes. As he watched in astonishment, Scarlet approached with a radiant smile, offering him one of the glasses. Have a drink. You're in the mood for a drink? Asher asked, his eyes fixed on the flute. Scarlet's smile was intoxicating. Why wouldn't I be? I just saved you from losing tens of billions of dollars. Shouldn't you be thanking me? She swirled the champagne in her glass. Most people in business hope to make money. You, my dear, seem to want to lose it. Realizing he'd let his frustration show, Asher forced a smile. Not at all. You saved the Vance family from a disaster. I can't thank you enough. Scarlet, I sincerely thank your entire family for this. And by the way, don't call me my dear. It's cheesy, and you're just my fiancé. Fiancé, he added for emphasis. Scarlet gently swirled the champagne in her flute. And you say you're grateful, she murmured, her voice low. Not a shred of sincerity. Is that how you men show thanks? Just empty words. Her tone, her posture, her expression. It was like watching a scene from a classic melodrama. And she had a point. Business was about making money, not losing it. The amount of capital Scarlet had just saved was astronomical. Asher's reaction was far too subdued. No joy, no relief. He was acting as if nothing had happened, which was completely out of character. Asher squeezed out another smile. Ms. Joe, what would you have me do? First, try calling me honey and see how it sounds, Scarlet said with a mischievous grin. Don't push it, Asher warned, his face turning cold. I'd love to call you that, but my sim persona won't allow it. Scarlet's smile widened, a sweetness spreading through her that was more potent than honey. Asher was cosplaying a role, and that role had rules. Lines he couldn't cross. She understood that now. So, she didn't press the issue. Just drink this champagne with me. My arm is getting tired, she said, offering a different condition. Asher nodded. That he could accept. As he took the glass, the she-devil's slender, pale fingers brushed against his hand, a teasing touch like a kitten's paw. A jolt went through him, and the glass trembled slightly, though thankfully no champagne spilled. After this drink, you should go home, he said firmly. This version of the she-devil didn't play by the rules. Asher was struggling to keep up. In the later parts of the novel, a fully villainous Scarlet would run circles around Leo Flynn, inflicting heavy losses on his Dragon's Den PMC. It was proof that this woman was far more complex than she appeared. Something is wrong with you, Scarlet. Very wrong. After I get you out of here, I need to rethink my strategy. If I don't acquire Apex, how will Leo get his chance to put me in my place? Ugh, this damn garbage plot is killing me. Ding. Congratulations, host. Personal strength, +1. I can't leave. This was a potential $100 billion investment that went sour. And don't forget, My family's money was tied up in it too, Scarlett stated, then downed her champagne in one go. She poured herself another glass. She had intended to refill Asher's, but he, still annoyed, didn't offer his glass back. Then he reconsidered. The champagne was expensive, and it was his. Might as well drink it. He held out his glass. Scarlett just smiled, saying nothing as she dutifully filled it for him. Knock, knock, knock. A sharp rap came from the conference room door. Come in, Scarlett called out. Asher was in a mood to ignore the world, sitting there contemplating the ruins of his life. So Scarlett took charge. Mark Lee entered, drenched in sweat. His face was pale, and he was trembling as he walked, his voice stuttering. Mr. Vance. Mrs. Vance. We have the results. Although Scarlett knew the truth would align with what Asher's inner voice had said, her heart had been pounding until the facts were confirmed. After all, she hadn't lived through the novel like Asher had. But seeing Mark Lee's terrified, shell-shocked expression, a wave of triumph washed over her. It was a sure thing. Her pretty face hardened, her eyes flashing with cold light. The next time I hear you call me Ms. Joe instead of Mrs. Vance, you can pack your things and leave. The salary and benefits at Vance Corp were 3 times the industry standard, and its reputation was impeccable. Mark Lee had no desire to lose this job. He shot a pleading look at Asher, only to find his boss wasn't even looking at him. And Mrs. Vance, Mark stammered, taking Asher's silence as acquiescence. It was do or die. Scarlett was the one who had uncovered the rot in Apex Properties. She deserved the respect. Scarlett nodded, satisfied. Spit it out. Mark steeled himself. Apex Properties is a sham. The information you received was 100% accurate. The conference room was full again. A cold sweat broke out on every executive as they realized how close they'd come to being duped by Apex. The people behind that scheme were absolute vultures. Vance Corp had already moved on the full acquisition. In other words, the money had been wired. They held the shares. If they hadn't acted so fast, every other major family in New York would have been fighting over the same poison chalice. Mr. Vance, what should we do now? Mark Lee asked, his head bowed low, a stark contrast to his earlier confidence. His question echoed the panic in everyone's mind. What should we do? Asher wanted to scream. I like to know that myself. Without this disaster, how is the protagonist supposed to get his moment of glory? How could the plot possibly move forward? A villain's purpose is to be defeated. Asher was mentally scrambling, trying to figure out how to salvage the scene, when he felt something brush against his calf. It was ticklish. The conference room was regularly cleaned and disinfected. Where would a bug come from? But with all eyes on him, he fought the urge to scratch and snapped. I don't have an immediate solution. But what's the point of this meeting? Isn't it for you people to come up with a plan? Don't ask me for every little thing. The room fell silent. It was only natural for their boss to be furious. And who could they blame? Only themselves for not doing their due diligence and getting swept up in the hype along with the other big families. Seeing them all staring down at the table, deep in thought, Asher sneakily reached a hand under the table. He expected to grab an insect, but his fingers met the smooth, yielding texture of leather. Confused, he explored further and felt 5 perfectly formed, rounded toes. The realization hit him. He shifted his chair back slightly and glanced down. A lovely, delicate foot was resting on his calf. A woman's foot, and the only woman sitting next to him was Scarlett Joe. A lightning bolt shot through Asher. This wasn't in the damn script. You're improvising. What is this tigress doing? Is she that desperate? That can't be right. This scene wasn't in the plot, but her teasing me probably won't affect the main storyline. Damn, that feels nice. It tickles, like a playful kitten pawing at its owner. But my character is Serafina, Hayes' loyal simp. Until my villainous turn, I can't have any ambiguous relationships with other women. As much as I'd like to enjoy this a little longer. Sorry, but no. Asher shot her a cold look, his voice a low hiss. Scarlett, get your dirty foot off me. Oh, is it dirty? I wash them every day. You can smell for yourself if you'd like, Scarlett whispered back, completely unfazed by his harsh words. And then it got worse. Her toes, like a deadly, coiling snake, began to press and dig into his calf. It was a maddening combination of pleasure and pain. His simp persona and his body's natural instincts were locked in a fatal conflict. What the hell does she want from me? I'm a simp. Do you understand? A simp. You're the woman you can't have now, but will get later after I turn evil. Until then, can we please just maintain a normal, professional relationship? Taking a deep breath, Asher reached down and grabbed her ankle. The fine silk of her stocking felt cool and smooth against his palm. But he steeled himself, and with a firm shove that would have broken the hearts of countless men, he pushed Scarlett's perfect foot away. "I'd appreciate it if you'd show some self-respect," he said, his voice louder this time. He knew he couldn't give her an ounce of hope. She was resilient, and her pride wasn't nearly as fragile as Serafina's. She knew how to exploit any advantage. Scarlett just smiled, her eyes filled with an innocent sparkle. The employees in the room had learned their lesson. Whatever was happening between Asher and Scarlett, they would die before they looked over. They didn't want to get called on to offer a solution to this crisis they couldn't solve. Scarlett knew when to quit. She could tell her little man was genuinely angry this time. It was better to boil the frog slowly. Being able to hear his thoughts was a gift from heaven. They were both in the villain camp in this story, a connection that layered on top of everything else. There was no need to rush. With Scarlett finally behaving, Asher thought he'd reestablish control. Sometimes, playing the bad guy was far more effective than playing the nice one. A shame he had to reserve his nice guy act for Serafina and his bad guy act for Scarlett. It was so damn unfair. But that was what the garbage author had decided the plot required. As an uneasy quiet settled over the room again, the team of high-powered executives, graduates of top universities at home and abroad with years, even decades, of experience, sat like timid quails, not daring to utter a peep. Asher had to laugh internally. Useless. A bunch of useless hacks. The solution is so simple, and not one of them can figure it out. Where's all that swagger you usually have? Right now, only our company knows about the rod inside Apex. All we have to do is quietly sell off our shares. Every other family is still drooling over this cake, wanting us to let them have a piece. They'd probably even pay a premium to buy the shares off us. But it's better if you don't figure it out. Let this drag on. In a few days, the truth will come out, and then no one will touch it. The protagonist will get his chance to shine, the plot won't change, and that's a win for me. Ding. Congratulations, host. Personal charm, +2. Scrape. Asher shot up from his chair. As the executives stared in shock, he declared, "You're all a bunch of idiots. We've been sitting here for almost 2 hours, and you haven't come up with a single decent idea. If I let you keep thinking, you won't have anything by tomorrow morning. You have time to waste, but I don't." Meeting adjourned. He tore into them without mercy. Now he could find a club, get a massage, and relax. Self-preservation was the name of the game. Oh, and he also needed to test just how durable his new Iron Mantle skill was. The senior staff bowed, their heads even lower, accepting the verbal lashing without a word of protest. Asher was right. He called them idiots, and they had no defense. Wait, a solution? It's not that hard to come up with one. A magnetic, distinctly female voice cut through the tension. Asher's eyelid twitched. "For the love of God, Scarlett, can you please just act like a normal human being?" Every breath in the room hitched as all attention snapped to Scarlett. They had all been racking their brains without success. How had she thought of an exit strategy so quickly? A bad feeling bloomed in Asher's chest. "Scarlett, this meeting is not a game," he said coldly. She shot him a look dripping with allure. "I said I have a solution, and I do. We have classified information that puts us one step ahead of everyone else. All the other companies are still fighting for a piece of Apex. What if we pretend we know nothing and quietly sell off our stake?" She paused, letting it sink in. "The other families will be breaking down our doors, tripping over themselves to buy the shares from us." It was like a light bulb went on over everyone's head. Mark Lee slapped his hand on the table in excitement. "Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. Mrs. Vance, that's a genius move. That way, we not only cut our losses, but we can shift the risk to our competitors. We could even make a profit by marking up the share price when we sell." "Mrs. Vance, your insight is on another level. Incredible. I give that plan a perfect 10. The praise was immediate and sincere. These normally proud, arrogant executives were suddenly transformed into a chorus of sycophants, showering her with every compliment they could think of. Some even discreetly pulled out their phones to Google more impressive words of praise. Asher's jaw tightened. "How is it," he said through gritted teeth, "that I never realized you were so damn smart?" Scarlett beamed, leaning in to whisper in a sultry voice only he could hear. "That's because you haven't gotten to know me deeply enough. If you did, you'd discover all of my talents." Asher sucked in a sharp breath. "She's insane. This woman is completely insane. Her true nature is coming out early. Is it because I'm so handsome that she can't control herself? Scarlett, where's your dignity? You're the she-devil, the female villain, not a female simp. Now that the solution is out, I'll have to find another way to salvage this plot point. Maybe I can acquire a shell company and use it to secretly buy the shares back." While Asher's mind was racing, one of the managers found a small flaw in Scarlett's plan and pointed out. "Mrs. Vance, the plan is good, but Vance Corp giving up a prize at just one will look suspicious. The other families aren't stupid. They'll pause and wonder why. And just like that, the news that Apex is toxic could leak. The question was sharp and deadly serious. It was a very real risk. But Scarlett remained perfectly calm. I hear the Hayes family is also desperate to acquire Apex stock. The company is valued in the hundreds of billions. We'll transfer our entire stake to them. She paused, her captivating eyes, full of Asher's reflection, locking onto his. Then we short their stock. We can make another few billion on the side. She added one final, devastating sentence. I trust that my dear fiancé is a man who can separate business from his personal life. As much as he likes Miss Hayes, surely he wouldn't let Vance Corp suffer a catastrophic, multi-billion-dollar loss just for a crush. Language was a high art, and Scarlett was a master. On one hand, she was proposing to sell the shares directly to the Hayes family. In New York, they were a first-tier family, but only because Asher, in his pursuit of Serafina, had funneled business their way, elevating them from second-tier status into one of the new four great families. They were now ranked third, nipping at the heels of the Zhou family, who were second. Scarlett would not stand for that. This was her chance to knock the Hayes family back down, maybe even out of the top tier entirely. The Vance family, of course, was in a league of its own, so powerful that all four families combined couldn't challenge them. On the other hand, besides her personal vendetta, Scarlett had a brilliant strategic reason for targeting the Hayes family. Everyone knew Asher was Serafina Hayes' loyal simp. By leveraging that identity, they could make every other family believe this was just Asher throwing away a fortune to impress a girl. It was a modern-day Gatsby, tossing away billions just to get Daisy's attention. A grand, romantic gesture that would become the talk of the town. A chill ran down Asher's spine as he looked at Scarlett. Damn, that's terrifying. She really is the main villain. Who else could come up with a plan that vicious? No one. But this makes things very awkward for me. What about my plot? She gets her victory, but what about me? Clap, clap, clap. One person started clapping, and soon the room erupted in thunderous applause. The executives were practically vibrating with excitement. Mrs. Vance is on another level. This is 5D chess. Holy crap. 666. Mrs. Vance, I bow to you. We sell our shares to the Hayes family, and they'll have to thank us for it. They piled on the praise, each compliment more over the top than the last. Scarlett's plan was practically flawless. It didn't just fix the problem. It turned around and landed a massive blow on the Hayes family. To a behemoth like Vance Corp, the Hayes family was small fry, but none of the employees enjoyed watching their young master play the fool for a woman who didn't want him. Asher rubbed his temples, his gaze fixed on Scarlett. Tell me how you thought of all this. Could she possibly be able to hear my thoughts? Scarlett's smile froze for a fraction of a second, and her body gave an imperceptible shudder. Her heart began to race, but she felt no fear. On the contrary, this moment was incredibly thrilling. She was a woman who craved excitement, and the more stimulating the situation, the more alive she felt. Her mind spun, formulating a response. The secret, that she could hear Asher's thoughts, was one she would take to her grave. Only a fool would confess. And she was no fool. Impossible. Something that ridiculous could never happen. I must be overthinking it. The Hayes family really does want the Apex shares, and it's no secret that the Zhou and Hayes families are rivals. Asher quickly dismissed his earlier suspicion. Hearing thoughts? It was pure fantasy. He was a transmigrator and a regressor who had already lived through the plot once, and he had a system. How could anyone possibly hear his thoughts? Scarlett's smile was knowing. Have you forgotten that my family and the Hayes family are rivals? Because of his simp persona, Asher had been funneling profitable Vance Corp projects to the Hayes family, while his own fiancé's family only got the leftovers. If not for his parents' intervention, Asher wouldn't have even given the Zhous that much. And even the leftovers from Vance Corp translated to over $1 billion in annual profit. It was just as he'd thought. Asher sighed, weary. Right, I remember. If the plot's broken, then it's broken. Let the she-devil do whatever she wants. My part in this scene is over. I'm done. But hopefully, she runs into that idiot Dragon King, Leo Flynn. This whole scheme was his idea. If he finds out Vance Corp is pulling out, he'll definitely warn Serafina not to buy the Apex shares. He might even expose the whole scam early, leaving Vance Corp stuck with unsellable stock. That's a real possibility. Should I go help out? Leo Flynn? Again, with Leo Flynn. That little security guard always hovering around Serafina. A flash of ruthlessness crossed Scarlett's eyes, followed by a pang of concern. If Asher went to help, this plan to offload the shares would almost certainly fail. After all, this was Vance Corp, not Joe Industries. She didn't call all the shots here. A moment later, a sly, cunning arc graced Scarlett's lips. Then, this she-devil will go get your revenge for you, she thought. That's right. She'd heard his inner voice again. Help? Hell no. My next scene isn't for a few days. I'm not bored enough to go looking for trouble. Delay the sale. Let someone else handle it. I couldn't care less. The moment I see that stupid woman Serafina, I have to act like a drooling simp, and it makes me want to vomit. All eyes in the room turned back to Asher. He was the one in charge. The final decision was his. Asher announced, let's leave it at that for today. It's almost quitting time anyway. We'll finalize the plan to sell to the Hayes family tomorrow. The executive stared dumbfounded. Are you kidding me, sir? This is a multi-billion-dollar crisis, not a $1,000 rounding error. Without another word, Asher strode toward the conference room door, leaving a room full of bewildered top-level management in his wake. They were used to his impulsive nature, but letting a bomb like Apex tick for another day made their blood run cold. If Asher's father, Lawrence Vance, found out and got angry, their heads would be the first on the chopping block. Panic began to set in. I'm sacrificing a lot to get this plot back on track, Asher muttered to himself as he left. If it still doesn't work, then to hell with you, Serafina. You and Leo Flynn can go eat dirt. Once outside the conference room, Asher felt a wave of relief. He bypassed his office, grabbed his car keys, and headed for the elevator. He was in a club, a place of high culture to enjoy the finer things in life. Stretch his muscles, relax his mind. He remembered number 28 was pretty, but her technique was a bit lacking. Number 39 had a great figure and skilled hands, but she had that look in her eyes, the same one Scarlett had, that made him feel like she wanted to eat him alive. It was too much. Yeah, number 14 was the best choice. Pretty, a great conversationalist. He always had a good time with her. Asher hummed a cheerful tune. Later, he'd just throw Mark Lee and some other incompetent executives onto the bus to take the fall. It was their plan, after all. If worst came to worst, he'd let his old man beat him up a little. Asher already had his escape plan figured out. A beating? Fine. What was the point of having an indestructible iron mantle if he never let anyone hit him? With Asher gone, the energy drained from the conference room. Without a direct order, they were paralyzed. They knew what to do, but without Asher's sign-off, they were terrified of being held responsible. This wasn't something you could just resign over. Did I say you could leave? Scarlett's cool voice sliced through the silence. With Asher gone, it was like she transformed. The flirty, coquettish demeanor vanished, replaced by the aura of a seasoned corporate queen. Mark Lee stammered, Mrs. Vance, but Mr. Vance? He's not here, which means I'm in charge, Scarlett declared. Now you'll do as I say. Get the legal department in here. I want them to draw up the transfer contracts for the Apex shares, and I want them flawless. The rest of you senior staff, you're coming with me to Serafina Hayes' company. Thank God Asher had left. Now she could operate freely. If he'd been there, she worried he'd have to sabotage her efforts to maintain his simp persona. He wouldn't do it maliciously, but he'd have to do it publicly. And she didn't want to fight with her little man, even if she knew it was all an act. Now that someone else was taking the lead, and the responsibility, the executives sprang into action. If Asher got mad later, he'd take it out on Scarlett. And a fight between that couple was a private matter. This was business, and business came first. Half an hour later, the convoy arrived at the Hayes Corporation headquarters. Scarlett knew that on the surface, this was about dumping the toxic Apex shares on Serafina, but it was also the first real battle between the two of them. Before, when Asher had been indifferent to her, Scarlett had felt that fighting over him was beneath her. It felt demeaning, desperate, but now it was different. Ever since she could hear his thoughts, everything had changed. The world was full of wonderful possibilities again. Scarlett, naturally, wasn't riding with the employees. She stepped out of her white Maserati Quattroporte, her eyes narrowing slightly as she strode into the Hayes Corporation building on clicking heels. Mark Lee and the Vance Corp legal team followed in her wake. The procession immediately caught the attention of every employee at Hayes Corp. It was impossible to miss. Isn't that Scarlett Joe from the Joe family? What's she doing at our company? Damn, those legs, that body, that face. I'm in love. She's right up there with our own Miss Hayes. I don't know why I missed her. Vance doesn't appreciate her. Only kids have to choose. A real man would want both. Yeah, keep dreaming. Those two are women you'll never get in this lifetime. Hey, isn't that Mark Lee, the head of investments at Vance Corp? Why is he with them? The Hayes Corporation staff instantly turned into a crowd of gossips, their curiosity ignited. Scarlett hadn't forgotten what Asher's inner voice had said. From the moment she arrived, her sharp eyes scanned the area, searching for any sign of Leo Flynn. She brought her family's bodyguards with her. If she spotted him, she'd have them create a distraction, tie him up, do whatever it took to delay him. There was no way she was letting Leo Flynn tip off Serafina Hayes. But as she walked through the lobby, Leo was nowhere to be seen. He had been thoroughly humiliated that morning. His job as a security guard was just a pretext to get close to Serafina, not a career. Consequently, he was often absent from his post. Ms. Joe, may I ask what brings you to our company? Serafina's personal assistant stepped forward to greet them. Scarlett instantly slipped into character, her acting skills worthy of an Oscar. Her brow furrowed with annoyance, her tone dripping with displeasure. Mr. Vance sent me to deliver a generous gift to your company. What kind of gift? The assistant asked instinctively. Scarlett sneered. Business must be booming for you. Even a mere assistant has the audacity to question me. The assistant's face went pale. I am so sorry, Ms. Joe. I'll go inform Ms. Hayes at once. A few moments later, Serafina appeared, accompanied by her father, Harrison Hayes. Upon hearing the news, Harrison had worried his daughter wouldn't be able to handle Scarlett alone, so he'd come along. Scarlett Joe was, after all, a force to be reckoned with. The two women's gazes locked in midair. One ice queen, the other a fiery vixen. Both were rare beauties, possessing a fatal attraction for any man. But experience won out. A foxy smile spread across Harrison Hayes' face. Ms. Joe, to what do we owe the pleasure? My daughter's assistant mentioned a gift. We are grateful, of course, but we can't accept something for nothing. Please extend my thanks to young Mr. Vance. Asher had brought the Hayes family an obscene amount of business. And now another generous gift. Harrison had practically sprinted over. Old fox, Scarlett thought with a silent sneer. Harrison talked about not accepting something for nothing, but he hadn't actually refused the gift. He was planning to assess the situation before making a final decision. Scarlett ignored him, instead glancing around the lobby. Mr. Hayes, is this how your company treats its guests? You want to discuss business out here in the open? Are you sure about that? Harrison considered for a moment. Whether they took the gift or not, they couldn't neglect basic etiquette. Ms. Joe, please, let's talk in the conference room. Harrison was a seasoned player. He was well aware of Asher's infatuation with his daughter and had tried to encourage a match, but Serafina had stubbornly refused. Even so, the lucrative contract from Vance Corp kept rolling in. Over time, he'd subconsciously started to see Asher as his personal golden goose. This visit was probably just another windfall. Wow, Mr. Vance is so generous, he's sending his fiancée to deliver money to our Ms. Hayes. Man, if I had a fiancée like that, I'd treat her like a queen. It's enough to make you jealous. How did he ever tame a woman like Scarlett Joe? I'd love to know. That's the world of the elite. Best not to ask too many questions. In the conference room, Harrison beamed. So, Ms. Joe, what is this gift? As the saying goes, you don't hit a smiling man. Scarlett didn't break character. It's about Apex Properties. Her calm statement landed like a bomb, stunning the Hayes father-daughter duo. Apex Properties was the hottest ticket in town. They had wanted to acquire it too, but Vance Corp had priority, and as long as they held the rights, no one else could make a move. Harrison shot to his feet, his voice trembling with excitement. Ms. Joe, are you serious? Scarlett nodded coolly. Harrison was ecstatic. Serafina, though equally pleased, felt a prickle of suspicion. Scarlett, her nominal rival who never saw eye to eye with Asher, was willingly acting as his messenger? An alpha female like her would never agree to do something so demeaning. Was she forced? Impossible. Serafina knew Scarlett's personality as well as Scarlett knew hers. In some ways, they were very similar. Neither of them liked being forced to do anything. Ms. Joe, before we proceed, could you answer a question for me? Why are you, of all people, willing to act as Mr. Vance's messenger? The first shot had been fired. Serafina's and Scarlett's eyes met again, a silent clash of wills. Scarlett's expression didn't change, but Mark Lee and the legal team behind her were already starting to sweat. Scarlett was formidable, but Serafina Hayes was no damsel in distress. The silent war between two powerful women could be more brutal than any physical fight. Mark Lee didn't dare breathe, terrified he'd give the game away. Then, Scarlett's face crumpled into a mask of profound disappointment. You think I want to be here? That bastard said he'd give the Apex shares to the Hayes family first. Only if you refuse them can the Joe family even get a seat at the table. Her expression shifted again, morphing into one of bitter resentment. And I'm supposed to be his fiancée. He thinks of outsiders before his own family. This engagement is a joke. The sooner it's over, the better. Scarlett's portrayal of a wronged, fed-up woman was flawless. To any observer, it was utterly convincing. Her final words hung in the air, more powerful than any shout. In that moment, both Harrison and Serafina understood why Mark Lee and the Vance Corp team were present. They were here to ensure Scarlett delivered Asher's message faithfully, word for word. Brilliant. It was absolutely brilliant. Harrison wanted to kiss Asher on both cheeks. The kid was a certified money-printing machine. And when he had money to give away, he thought of the Hayes family first. Such a good kid. A shame his daughter couldn't see it. But the Hayes family had grown accustomed to Asher's generosity, seeing it not as a gift, but as their due. It was a classic case of entitlement breeding resentment. My dear boy is so thoughtful. If only he were my son-in-law, Harrison laughed, his voice booming with triumph. Anyone could hear the mockery in Harrison Hayes' words. Asher Vance is your fiancé. So what? He's still giving the best deals to my daughter. How does that make your family feel, Scarlett? Humiliated? Old fox. You'll be crying in a few days. I wonder if you'll still be laughing so hard then, Scarlett thought to herself. Serafina, too, felt a flicker of satisfaction. Ms. Joe, she asked coolly, what transfer fee is your corporation proposing? The price was, naturally, her primary concern. Harrison leaned forward, his interest piqued. That little simp Asher was always orbiting his daughter, getting nothing in return. To make her happy, surely he would offer the shares at cost, or maybe even at a discount. It wasn't out of the question. Scarlett held up 3 elegant, pale fingers. 30% above market price. Isn't that a bit steep? Serafina shot back immediately. Harrison stared in disbelief. Why wasn't Asher playing his usual part? Shouldn't he be fawning over his daughter? This uncharacteristic stinginess, a 30% premium, annoyed him greatly. For a moment, he thought he had misheard. Scarlett was no simp. She had no intention of being pleasant to this father-daughter pair. Her face became a mask of ice. When Mr. Vance said he was giving up all of Vance Corp shares in Apex, I was surprised. What surprised me more was that he didn't offer them to my family first, but immediately thought of you, Serafina Hayes. Your family has received so much from the Vances that you've started to believe you're entitled to it. You think all the good things that come your way are just what you deserve. There are dozens of powerful families in New York. Why does Mr. Vance always think of you? Is it because your business acumen is superior? Your client base more stable? Your operational efficiency higher? Scarlett paused, her voice dropping to a frigid, deliberate tone. No, it's none of those things. It's simply because you, Mr. Hayes, have a beautiful, enchanting daughter who has my fiancé utterly bewitched. If they were going to lay the cards on the table, it might as well be now. These were the things Scarlett had been dying to say to them for years. Before she could hear Asher's thoughts, she had believed he genuinely didn't like her. She hadn't wanted to debase herself by chasing after him. But now she knew what he really thought. And today, she was here to collect some interest on behalf of her little man. To hell with the protagonist and the female lead. To hell with the predetermined plot. Even if it was all scripted, she wouldn't fail to live up to her role as the #1 female villain. Mark Lee and the others from Vance Corp who knew the truth were cheering internally. Mrs. Vance is a badass. To confront the head of Hayes Corporation on his own turf, without giving an inch of ground. It was incredible. But when they thought about her words, they couldn't find a single flaw. In fact, she wasn't the only one who thought that way. Every other family in the city felt the same. The only difference was they didn't dare say it to the Hayes' faces, not out of fear of them, but of angering Asher. Harrison and Serafina's faces cycled through shades of red and white. Serafina, in particular, felt a hot flush of shame. Her pride was stung. Everything Scarlett had said was true. She was taking advantage of the Vance family's generosity while stringing along its future heir. Wasn't that exactly what she was doing? I never asked him to do any of those things, Serafina retorted, her face flushed, stubbornly refusing to admit defeat. It was all his choice. Playing dumb, are we? Scarlett shot back. Then don't accept the benefits. You could have refused the contracts Vance Corp offered you. I have never met such shameless people in my life. Forget it. If you don't want the Apex shares, just say so. Oh wait, it's not that you don't want them. You want them for free. There's no such thing as a free lunch in this world. If you don't want them, my family will take them all. Mark Lee flinched, then immediately stood. Yes. Go back and tell Mr. Vance exactly what happened. The Hayes family doesn't want the shares, so we, the Joe family, will be taking them, Scarlett commanded. A cold sweat trickled down Mark Lee's back, but he followed her orders. He immediately instructed the Vance Corp legal team to prepare the transfer documents, right there in front of Harrison and Serafina. Panic seized Harrison. Asher's terms were actually pretty good. A 30% premium might seem high, but Vance Corp held a much larger stake than they could have acquired on their own. And if they refused, other families were waiting to pounce. If the shares went to the Zhou family, the Hayes would be stuck in third place forever. Ms. Zhou, please, don't be angry, he pleaded. Serafina was just speaking out of frustration. Business is business. Scarlett, too, had been feeling a tremor of anxiety. But when she heard Harrison's desperate voice, she let out a huge, internal sigh of relief. Oh, I thought the Hayes family wasn't interested, she asked coldly. Not interested? Of course we're interested. We'll take whatever you've got, Harrison said with an obsequious smile. He was an old pro, a master of knowing when to advance and when to retreat. Fearing Scarlett would actually snatch the shares, he scurried over to Mark Lee. Mr. Vance's word is his bond. You were ordered to give us priority, not the Zhou family. Harrison invoked Asher's name as a shield. Mark Lee hesitated, then forced a strained smile. Of course. We'll take the Apex shares. Don't you dare give them to anyone else. Harrison said, finally breathing a sigh of relief. In fact, everyone in the room relaxed, including Serafina. Even if this deal was thanks to Asher, business was business, not a matter of feelings. A profit of several $1 billion wasn't something you just threw away. Besides, she thought, a flicker of annoyance crossing her mind, it wasn't like that jerk Asher actually liked her. It was all an act, a show for everyone else. With that, Scarlett was left on the sidelines, her face a dark storm cloud as she watched the two parties negotiate. It was all for show, of course. The negotiations went smoothly, as both sides were eager to close. The Hayes Corporation legal team reviewed the contracts and found no issues. A transaction involving a staggering $6.8 billion in equity was completed in less than an hour. Scarlett finally let out her breath. Let's see how you bounce back from this, Hayes family. The fact that Apex was a lemon was true, but until it was exposed, it was still a golden goose. By the time Harrison and Serafina Hayes discovered the rot inside, it would be far too late. Asher was at an ultra-exclusive wellness club, the completely legitimate kind. He had no interest in the other variety. Inside a lavish VIP suite, a therapist, number 14, greeted him with a warm smile. Mr. Vance, it's been a few days. Asher was different from the other VIP clients. He never made inappropriate requests. He was just here to relax and get a massage. Only a few days, Asher teased back. Did you miss me? Number 14 nodded eagerly, her eyes sparkling, reflecting Asher's image. I did. I thought about you day and night. Asher laughed. I missed you too. Number 14's cheeks flushed a delicate pink. She pouted. Men's words are all lies. If you really missed me, you'd make me your exclusive therapist. The thought of providing a warm home for every girl in the world was a nice fantasy. But Asher knew his role, the ultimate prize, the nation's most eligible bachelor. In simpler terms, he was the dream man for every ordinary young woman. Young, impossibly rich, with a family fortune that would last lifetimes. We'll talk in a couple of days, he said, deflecting. Same as usual for today. With practiced ease, he stripped off his shirt. Number 14 gave him a mock-aggrieved look, but said nothing more. She knew her place. He was the city's golden boy, and she was. Well, she was a top-tier beauty by any normal standard, but there was a vast gulf between her and the goddesses in his circle, like his fiancée Scarlett Zhou or his obsession, Serafina Hayes. The idea that he would ever see her as anything more was laughable. A high-pitched shriek suddenly filled the room. Asher looked at her, baffled. What are you screaming about? Number 14's face was beet red. She stared, dumbfounded, at Asher's bare torso, her cherry-red lips forming a perfect O of shock. Mr. Vance, when did you get abs? Asher followed her gaze down to his own body and was stunned silent himself. Holy hell, his physique was incredible. The serratus anterior, the boxer's muscle, was perfectly defined along his ribs, like the gills on a shark. Fitness junkies called them shark lines or bullet muscles, one of the most sought-after and explosive signs of peak physical condition. While ordinary people were still chasing a six-pack, the truly dedicated were already trying to sculpt these. The visual impact was breathtaking, and it was a perfect example of what it did to the opposite sex. Because of their unique location, the bullet muscles were notoriously difficult to train. And next to them, Asher saw something even more surprising, a full 8-pack. Not everyone could achieve that, no matter how hard they trained. Genetics meant some people topped out at 6 or even 4. This body, perfect enough to be a classical Greek sculpture, would cause a sensation anywhere. Forget young women. Wealthy cougars would be drooling over him. What training? These are just vanity muscles from injections. Asher laughed, pulling a lie out of thin air. He had to say something. It was impossible for anyone to build a body like this in such a short time without years of grueling work. There was no other explanation. Oh, right, number 14 said, nodding dazedly, her eyes still glued to his torso. She was in a trance, not really hearing a word he said. Asher looked down at himself again. It's not that big of a deal. The first time he'd seen it, he'd been shocked too, but he'd quickly gotten used to it. This explosive physique was his now a permanent upgrade. He'd see it every day in the shower. Why get worked up over something you see all the time? He casually walked over to the massage table. Come on, let's get started. Same as usual. His voice snapped the therapist out of her daze. She swallowed hard, her long, slender legs carrying her forward in a light, hurried pace. Come on, my lord. Whoa, I didn't order any of the weird stuff, Asher protested. Her breathy, playful tone made his heart skip a beat. This was new. Number 14 was usually very professional. Had the plot's collapse somehow affected her, too? He considered it for a moment, then dismissed the idea. He knew the names of every important character who appeared in the book by heart. The ordinary people he encountered in his off-screen time had nothing to do with the plot. How would they be influenced? Number 14 soft, white hands landed on his shoulders. From her vantage point, Asher's back was a landscape of power, every muscle clearly defined. It was a back practically begging for a cupping therapy session. Her heart fluttered. You didn't order it, my lord, she cooed, her cheeks flushed, but this is something I'm offering. Voluntarily. Is it not allowed? Please, my prince. The cosplay was a new addition. Asher could only think, well now this is interesting. A fusion of ancient and modern. Very creative. Fine, fine. Just use a little more pressure, he said, surrendering to the rare moment of leisure. Only here could he drop the act and truly relax. As you wish, my prince. Whatever you command, I shall do. Number 14 was overjoyed. The muscles, the texture, it felt too real to be fake. Most of her clients were either pot-bellied old men or scrawny youths. This was the first time in her career she'd ever massaged a handsome man with a perfect body. It made sense, really. The clientele here were mostly wealthy heirs and playboys who spent their days indulging in women and wine. Who among them had time to work out? The last time Asher had come in, he'd been fit, but nothing like this. At this point, number 14 didn't care if the muscles were real or fake. She was just going to do her job and enjoy it. You were my eyes. If I could see, I could easily tell day from night. Lying on his stomach, Asher was surprised by his ringtone and picked up the phone from beside the pillow. Behind him, number 14's hands paused. Keep going, don't mind me, Asher said. She nodded, and her warm, delicate hands resumed their work. Weird. Why is Mom calling me at this hour? Asher wondered. But with the plot in total freefall, anything was possible. A sudden call from his mother could mean something important was up. He answered the phone. Hey, Mom. Asher, what took you so long to answer? His mother's familiar voice filled his ear. For a moment, Asher felt a pang of nostalgia. In his previous life, after Leo Flynn had destroyed the Vance family, Asher had used his own private funds, with the system's tacit permission, to send his parents abroad. It was enough for them to live out their days in comfort. According to the plot, after Asher's death, they had tried to avenge him, but Leo Flynn had framed his father, Lawrence, sending him to prison. With the Vance family's power gone, all their fair-weather friends vanished overnight. Her husband in jail, her son dead, and her daughter for some reason siding with Leo Flynn, Asher's mother had soon fallen into a deep depression and taken her own life. Was it a satisfying story? For the readers identifying with the protagonist, Leo Flynn, absolutely. It was pure wish fulfillment. But for the Vance family, it was an utter catastrophe. And all because Asher had pursued the woman the protagonist had set his sights on, leading to a few minor clashes. For that, Leo Flynn had to annihilate his entire family, destroying centuries of work in less than a year. Even though Asher knew it was all just a story, he had still used what little power he had to save his parents. They may have been his fictional parents, but the blood in his veins was theirs. That was undeniable. I was busy, Mom, Asher said, a strange tightness in his throat. His mother, Eleanor, didn't detect anything amiss. Do you need me to send over some more top-notch people from corporate to help you out? Her voice dripped with doting affection. In the original story, Asher's arrogant, lawless personality was a direct result of his mother's spoiling. But what mother didn't dote on her child? Eleanor Vance was usually consumed by work and rarely had time for Asher, so she tried to make up for it by giving him the absolute best of everything. A warmth spread through Asher's chest. Thanks, Mom, but I can handle things here. It's not necessary. If you can't manage, just let me know. Don't work yourself to death. I know, Mom. Is there something you called about? Can't I just check in on my precious son? Is it a crime for a mother to call her own child? Asher had a smile. Hearing the mock anger in her tone, he quickly placated her. Not a crime. Not a crime at all. I'm really happy you called. That's more like it. Anyway, I won't waste your time. I'm calling because your Uncle Richard is hosting a dinner tonight and invited our whole family. Uncle Richard who? Richard Joe, your fiancée Scarlett's father. Your future father-in-law. Have you been working so hard you fried your brain? If so, drop everything and come home to rest. You can always make more money, but don't ruin your health. Asher was completely baffled. What the hell? Why is Richard Joe throwing a dinner party out of nowhere? The man's a nutcase. Scarlett's gone crazy, and now her father has too. He didn't have many memories of Richard Joe from the novel, but the ones he had were vivid. When Leo Flynn had established his power base in New York, and the other three great families had sided with him, the Joe family, under Scarlett's leadership, had resisted to the very end. Of course, thanks to the protagonist's plot armor, the Joe family was destined to fall. Asher didn't know the specifics of what happened after that, because he'd already been written out of the story by then, leaving the she-devil to manage the final act. Mom, you guys go. I'll sit this one out, Asher said, refusing. Whether this was Richard Joe's idea or Scarlett's, no one was going to rob him of his precious R&R time. Usually, his mother would have sided with him. But this time, her tone was uncharacteristically firm. No, tonight's dinner is important. You have to be there. Asher was taken aback. He hadn't expected her to push back. Is this Scarlett's idea? He couldn't think of any other reason. Don't call her Scarlett, his mother chided. She's my future daughter-in-law. You're not a kid anymore. It's time you settled down. Call her by her name. And what's so great about that Serafina Hayes anyway? Is she really worth all this obsession? So is her. Asher had to maintain his sim persona. Mom, you know I'm only interested in Serafina. No other woman even registers. From the first moment I saw her, my heart has had no room for anyone else. Ugh. Asher delivered the lines with ringing conviction, the very picture of true love. Number 14, the therapist, seemed to be in a daze. In this materialistic world, Mr. Vance, a man from the highest echelons of society, was so different from the other rich heirs. He was a breath of fresh air, a beam of light piercing the darkness. Splat. She fumbled, and the bottle of massage oil slipped from her hand and fell to the floor. What was that noise? His mother asked, instantly alert. Asher wanted to curse. Not at his mother, and not at number 14. Accidents happen. And nothing. Mom, you must have misheard, he said quickly. Ever since he'd met Serafina, his character wasn't supposed to be fooling around. Other characters' personas could break, but if his did, it was game over. His mother's suspicion deepened. No, that sounded like a woman's voice. Asher wanted to cry. Was a woman's sixth sense really that sharp? Mom, you know that after I met Serafina, there's only been room for her in my heart. You know that. The line went silent. Asher's racing heart began to slow. Although everyone knew what adults got up to, this was his mother. He was only a playboy on the surface. Besides, he hadn't actually done anything. He wouldn't be falsely accused. After a long pause, his mother said, "All right then." Bang, bang, bang. Before his mother could finish, a loud, insistent knocking came from the suite door, followed by a stern shout. Police. Open up. Room check. Asher was dumbfounded. What the fresh hell is this? Police raid. Here? This was an ultra-exclusive club, a VIP suite. Raids didn't happen here. The management had connections. The NYPD looked the other way as long as things didn't get too out of hand. In 3 lifetimes, this was the first time Asher had ever been in this situation. And of all the times for it to happen, it had to be now. He could feel the plot itself actively trying to screw with him. Asher, dear, do take care of your health. His mother's amused voice came through the phone. Tears of frustration welled in Asher's eyes. Mom, what are you talking about? It's not what you think, I swear. His mother's tone became earnest. I understand, dear. It's good for young men to have energy. In a way, I'm glad. At least your mind isn't completely fixated on Serafina Hayes. Just try to be more discreet after you're married. Scarlett is a young woman. After all, she has her pride. She might not say anything, but these things add up. Scarlett has her pride? Mom, you have no idea who that woman really is. She's the #1 villainess, a modern-day empress. The she-devil's pride is bulletproof. You don't know what she did to me in the conference room earlier. God, it was intense. Ahem. Asher felt a headache coming on. Mom, Scarlett is not as simple as she looks. Of course I know that, dear. My future daughter-in-law needs to have some substance if she's going to help you manage the vast Vance family empire. His mother had completely misinterpreted him again. He was trapped. There was no way to explain. The banging on the door grew more violent. Police, open the door immediately. Do not attempt to destroy any evidence. We have sensitive detection equipment. If you don't want to spend years in prison, cooperate now. Number 14 was panicking, her face pale. Like Asher, she'd never experienced a raid before. It might happen at other clubs, but this place was top tier. The police usually just did a walkthrough. They never banged on the doors of the VIP suites. Mom, I'll call you back later, Asher said. Asher, can you handle this? If not, call me back, and I'll have your father pull some strings to get you out. A mother's love. Asher really wanted to cry now. He was innocent. He hadn't done anything wrong. The banging intensified. No more time for explanations. He hung up. Mr. Vance, what do we do? Number 14 asked, her voice trembling. Asher's eye twitched. What do you think? We open the door and let them search. We haven't done anything illegal. What's there to be afraid of? He swung himself off the table, a flicker of anger in his eyes. This was all their fault. Now his own mother thought he was cheating. What rotten luck. Click. All right. Stop trying to break down the door. Asher snapped as he opened it. Outside stood 5 or 6 police officers. A strikingly beautiful female officer stepped forward, her voice sharp. What took you so long to open the door? Her dark, glossy hair was tied up, revealing a delicate, angular face. Her eyebrows had a slight, fierce arch to them, giving her an air of authority. Her. Asher froze. For a moment, the world felt incredibly small. The woman in front of him was Catherine Young, a rookie cop with an almost fanatical sense of justice. But that wasn't her only identity. She had another, more important one. The reason she could raid a place like this with impunity. She was the second daughter of the Young family, the most powerful of the 4 great families. Of course, she would never admit her career had anything to do with her background. In her mind, justice would always triumph over darkness. She was, in other words, a flower raised in a greenhouse, a do-gooder dedicated to righteousness. Her main weakness was her naivete, which made her easy to manipulate. Later in the story, Leo Flynn would exploit that very weakness to frame Asher, having Catherine herself be the one to arrest him. It was a classic trope. It made the protagonist look like a good guy while cementing Catherine's hatred for Asher. Asher himself had never blamed her. Idealistic crusaders like her existed in every era. Inexperienced, hating evil with a passion, they were easily used by those with ulterior motives. Asher, Catherine Young said, equally stunned to see him. The children of New York's top families all knew each other. They'd all gone to the same elite schools. In fact, Asher and Catherine had been in elementary school together. He'd been in 2nd grade when she was in 1st. Asher had been in the same class as her older sister, Jessica, and the 2 sisters were inseparable. Every time the bell rang for recess, Catherine would appear outside their classroom, and their teacher, perhaps deliberately, had made Jessica his desk mate. Back then, the little Catherine had been adorable and clueless. Asher, in a fit of mischief, had taken it upon himself to teach her his own brand of right and wrong, his own definition of justice. He'd filled her head with all sorts of nonsense. And under his careful guidance, a new champion of justice was born. Wherever there was injustice, girls fighting over dolls, boys getting into fistfights, little Catherine would be there to intervene. Her admiration for Asher grew by the day. This strange bond lasted until middle school. By high school, they had gone their separate ways. Once upon a time, the boy who slayed dragons became a dragon himself. The girl was still the same girl, but the boy was not the boy he used to be. Out of the way, Catherine said coldly, snapping out of her surprise. Police business. Step aside, hands on your head. She brushed past him and entered the room. Asher watched her go, then turned his gaze to a portly man in a suit standing behind the officers. The club manager saw his look and immediately began to grovel. I'm so sorry, Mr. Vance. I had no idea it was Ms. Young on duty tonight. You don't know? Don't act like I'm supposed to, Asher Vance said, rolling his eyes. And it was true. He really didn't know this part of the plot. The last time he'd lived through this storyline, it had started from chapter 1. Back then, all he wanted was to go home, so he meticulously played the part of a law-abiding model citizen. It was only after slowly figuring out the rules of this world that he'd finally decided to cut his exhausted self some slack. Holy crap, is the new hotshot detective in our precinct always this intense? She's chewing out Asher Vance, the biggest whale in New York City. Detective Young is a certified badass. I bow down. Two rookie cops were whispering in the corner. An older, more seasoned officer next to them chimed in. You two don't get it, do you? Detective Young isn't just anybody. She's got connections high up. The senior officer lowered his voice. Rumor is she and Vance go way back, but that's way above our pay grade. The rookies nodded, a silent understanding passing between them. Catherine Young, Kate, may have been new to the force, but whenever the captain led a raid, she acted more like the one in charge. She was the one who confronted the people no one else dared to. She was the one who did the things no one else would touch. If a situation was out of control, Kate Young took control. And if it was already under control, she'd take control of it anyway. Name, age, date of birth, ID, and your professional license now, Kate said, her beautiful face an iron mask of impartiality. Number 14 shot Asher, a helpless look, her eyes wide and pathetic like a puppy about to be abandoned. It didn't look like an act. Asher chuckled, trying to reassure her. Just do what the nice officer says. It's not like she's going to eat you. His flippant attitude only made Kate's brow furrow deeper. He was the hero she had worshipped as a child, and now, right before her eyes, he was morphing into the very thing she despised, a decadent, spoiled brat poisoning society. What happened to our promise to protect the innocent? Was that all a lie? The moment Asher started high school, it was like a switch had flipped. Kate hadn't given up on him at first. She tried to reach him, but she gradually realized he was beyond her help. Disappointment had curdled into a permanent disillusionment, and eventually she cut off all contact. They became strangers. No, worse than strangers. The relationship between strangers was a million times better than the indefinable, twisted thing that existed between them now. As they say, the line between love and hate is thin, and the look in your eyes when you want to kill someone is impossible to hide. What's so funny? Your ID, too. Now, Kate snapped. Seeing him so complacent, so utterly devoid of ambition, ignited a strange frustration deep inside her. Asher kept his easy smile. Seriously? Kate, we've known each other forever. You're really going to pull this on me? Who knows you? Sir, I don't want to repeat myself. Get your ID out. Immediately, she fumed. Asher dropped the playful act. All right, officer. 1 second. I'll go get it for you. Internally, he let out a colossal sigh of relief. Oh, thank God. Finally. Finally. It wasn't easy, but I finally found someone who hasn't completely lost their mind. He was so overjoyed he could have hugged Kate, maybe even planted a kiss on her cheek. This was exactly how a champion of justice was supposed to act. You did good, kid. Your professionalism, your dedication, your by-the-book attitude. It brings a tear to my eye. Good girl. As Asher went to retrieve his wallet, Kate had a moment to compose herself. Her gaze drifted involuntarily to his upper body. He was wearing nothing but a pair of board shorts, his torso completely bare. As a professional, she'd seen plenty of men training shirtless at the police academy, especially during the sweltering summer months. But she had never, not once, seen anyone with a physique like Asher's. For a split second, her heart stuttered, her pulse quickening for no reason. Her breathing grew shallow. The raw power of his build was a visual shockwave, like a high-fashion model had walked off the runway and into the room. No designer suit worth hundreds of thousands of dollars could compare to the breathtaking impact of his own skin and muscle. Kate felt a flush creep up her neck. She tried to look away, but her eyes kept darting back for another glance. The paradox between her professional duty and her visceral reaction left her completely disoriented. Officer, your ID, Asher said, holding the card out to her. Kate blinked, her eyes flicking back and forth between his face and the ID in his hand. Didn't you want to see my ID? He asked, looking confused. Snapping back to reality, she snatched the card from his hand and turned her head away with a huff. Yes. What of it? Asher scratched his head, utterly baffled by her behavior. What the hell is her problem? Is it that time of the month? She's acting totally nuts. If it is, then damn, she's hardcore. Working sick, not even taking a day off. That's my Powerpuff Girl, a true champion of justice. Freaking legendary. Whatever. I just hope she hurries up. My massage isn't over yet. What was that noise? Kate's head snapped up. Who said that? Who's talking trash about someone's time of the month? Her eyes scanned the room, sharp and menacing. There were only 2 women present, herself and number 14. Kate was certain that asshole was talking about her. She was the only female cop in the room. Whoa, did I actually hit the nail on the head? She must be in so much pain, but she's still pushing through. What a trooper. It's not like she'd starve if she never worked another day in her life. You need to be in shape to fight for justice, right? What's the point if you run your own body into the ground? Something's wrong. Very wrong. Why is she staring at me with that brow, all furrowed? It's the same look that Demonis gave me. Is there something on my face? Stop looking. Even if you stare a hole through me, I don't have any hot water for you. We're just strangers now, ships passing in the night. Asher Vance. Suddenly, a furious, high-pitched shriek echoed through the private room. Kate was glaring at him with a look that could kill. Asher and, well, little Asher were stunned. Number 14 was stunned. The manager and every cop in the room were stunned. Everyone stared, dumbfounded, at Kate, who had just screamed for no apparent reason. With a dozen pairs of eyes fixed on her, Kate's face flushed crimson. She shot another venomous glare at Asher, snorted through her nose, and then forced herself to examine the ID in her hand. Asher was completely baffled. The two rookie cops couldn't help but whisper again. Dude, is that the same Detective Yang we know? Even goddesses have mortal moments. I think I just saw a star fall from heaven. She'll keep it down. I read online that the best way to get a goddess's attention is to make her angry. If she doesn't even get mad, if she just ignores you, you're toast. Damn. Vance is a freaking genius. That explains the rumors about him constantly chasing Serafina Hayes. She gets mad, but he never gives up. It's all part of his master plan. I remember back at the academy, forget making Detective Yang angry. Most guys didn't even have the guts to talk to her. Dude, I think this means she's into him. The two thought they were whispering, but the room was small, and the soundproofing that kept noise out also kept it in. Kate's body trembled with fury, her face alternating between shades of red and white. Asher, meanwhile, had settled back onto the massage table, waiting for her to finish her inspection so he could get back to his well-deserved relaxation. I remember after the protagonist, Leo Flynn, has his first big face-slapping moment, he not only wins over the female lead, Serafina Hayes, but also gets a nod of approval from that old fox, Harrison Hayes. There's still some time before the whole pretend to be my boyfriend plot point. Man, when do I finally get a turn to the dark side? Wait, I remember now. The righteous Powerpuff Girl, Kate Young, has her scene in a few days. It's the first time she meets Leo Flynn. The setup is super cliche. Kate's just trying to buy breakfast when she sees some thug robbing an old lady of her life savings. Of course, her sense of justice goes into overdrive. She takes off after him, and right on cue, the Dragon King himself, Leo Flynn, just happens to be passing by. He helps her stop the robber, flashes a roguish grin, and just like that, another heart is captured. She'll get all flustered just like that other dumb girl. Ding. Congratulations, host. You have acquired super enhanced vision. Huh. Asher blinked. The world around him gradually sharpened, colors becoming more vibrant. His vision, slightly blurred from years of staring at computer screens, was now perfectly clear. In fact, he could see 10 times more clearly than before. Not a bad haul. Finally, a decent reward. He couldn't care less about things like charisma points. What good was being handsome? Could it pay the bills? Well, actually, yes. With his looks and physique, there was a long line of wealthy women waiting to make him their boy toy. But no matter how handsome he was still fated to be taken down by the smirking Dragon King. Thinking about the upcoming plot where Leo Flynn would use the Apex Properties deal to humiliate him, Asher felt a wave of melancholy. Why does every Batman need a Joker? Damn it. If only this was just a normal, boring world without some god-tier mercenary Dragon King making a comeback. It was a nice thought, but reality rarely conforms to your wishes. When a world wants to slap you, it slaps you. There's no room for negotiation. Over on her side, the barrage of explosive information was giving Kate a massive headache. What does he mean? Am I in a novel? I'm going to meet the main character in a few days? And he's some ridiculously powerful wolf in sheep's clothing. Her eyes glazed over. But none of that was the most important part. The most important part was that she wanted to murder Asher Vance. He kept calling her Kate and Katie in his head, one after another, more intimately than he'd probably ever address his own sister. Kate was a whirlwind of rage, humiliation, and fury. When they were kids, it was always Katie or my dear Kate. And now, he didn't even have the decency to be respectful. If she wasn't trying to hide the fact that she could hear his thoughts, she would have grabbed him by the collar and screamed, "What did you just call me? Say it one more time, I dare you. I'll tear you to shreds, you bastard." After finishing her inspection of his ID, she practically threw it back at him. Asher wasn't the least bit bothered by her rough attitude, which, for some reason, annoyed Kate even more. He used to be so sweet when we were kids. Now, he's a completely different person. A player. A total scumbag. Mr. Vance, I hear you have a fiancé. Does she know you're messing around in places like this? Kate pouted, deciding to stir up some trouble. That'll teach you to badmouth me in your head. Asher froze for a second, then burst out laughing. A little fun now, and then it's just part of being a man. Nothing wrong with living a little. A wave of approving glances came from the male officers in the room. Deep down, most of them felt the same way. The only difference was Asher had the means. They lacked the financial firepower, the cash flow ability to be as reckless as he was. Kate's expression soured. Her brilliant move had backfired. She should have known Asher was a world-class scumbag. Even his supposed love for Serafina Hayes was a lie. She'd heard it straight from his thoughts. Her entire worldview, built on a foundation of right and wrong, was beginning to crumble. But for now, she just wanted to see him squirm. She didn't know why, but seeing him threw her entire emotional state into chaos. And if he was happy and comfortable, she was miserable. Asher was oblivious to the drama unfolding in Kate's mind. If he knew, he would have shouted, "Girl, you're in love. Find a quiet corner and bury those feelings, because I'm the one man you'll never have." "Well then, when I see Serafina, I'll be sure to mention this," Kate threatened, her tone deceptively sweet. The four great families of New York were all interconnected through business. They moved in the same circles, saw each other at the same galas and board meetings. Their corporate empires grew together, a delicate balance of competition and cooperation. Of course, when that balance tipped, friends became enemies, and enemies were swallowed whole. But right now, the protagonist, Leo Flynn, hadn't established his foothold yet. The game board was still stable. Kate batted her eyelashes, her bright eyes stealing glances at Asher's face, trying to read his expression. But more importantly, she was listening intently to his thoughts. A moment later, a sly, beautiful smile spread across her lips. When a goddess smiles, nations fall. Kate's beauty was easily on par with Scarlett Jo's and Serafina Hayes's. The only difference between them was their personalities and life experiences. And right now, Kate was smiling because she had heard Asher's panicked inner monologue. "Serafina? Are you kidding me? Kate, you've gone to the dark side. What happened to your sense of justice? Your noble character? This is straight-up villain behavior. Your morals are corrupt. Your ethics are depraved. I'm warning you, stay out of my business. The less you know about that dumb woman, the better it is for both of us. Damn it. Now I have to play the desperate simp again. God, I'm so sick of this role." Asher's face hardened into a furious mask. He glared at Kate, his voice dripping with menace. "Detective Young, a word of advice. Don't be so arrogant. Others might be scared of the Young family, but I'm not. You'd be wise not to cross my lines." He transformed into a feral wolf. His performance, so convincing the temperature in the room, seemed to drop several degrees. Asher's public persona was notoriously volatile, reckless, and utterly spoiled. He had done countless outrageous things in his pursuit of Serafina Hayes. Well, to be fair, some of those stories were fabricated by tabloids, trying to cash in on the drama surrounding the nation's wealthiest bachelor. Asher never bothered to correct them. He didn't care about his reputation. It fit his character profile, after all. If anything, the media's unintentional rumor-mongering had been a huge help. He didn't even have to introduce himself. Everyone already knew what kind of person he was supposed to be. Besides, what does a villain need a good reputation for? Holy hell, is Detective Young insane? Using Serafina Hayes to provoke him? What do we do if he attacks her? Are you an idiot? Of course we help her. But what about retaliation from Vance later? I got a family to think about, and I'm still single. I don't want to die. Relax, man. Vance might be a bastard, but he doesn't go after families. You're safe on that front. The junior officers were panicking. They were here to enforce the law. Yes, but only when a law had actually been broken. Asher was just getting a massage. Even if this place was a known high-end rub-and-tug joint, they hadn't caught him in the act of doing anything illegal. There was no legal or logical basis for this. Kate's actions, on the other hand, were completely out of line. She was prying into his personal life without cause. The tension was thick enough to cut with a knife. The team leader, Captain Miller, stepped forward, a practiced, placating smile on his face. Mr. Vance, calm down. I'm sure Detective Young didn't mean anything by it. A massage is your private business. As police officers, we have no right to interfere with a citizen's legal activities." Asher gave him an appreciative nod. "See? This guy gets it. Open your eyes and take some notes, Katie girl. This is how you navigate the real world. Without the protection of your family name, your attitude wouldn't get you through 3 chapters before you're written out of the story. The only ones who win are the ones who survive to the end. Sigh, I wish I could just lay low, but this stupid plot won't let me. And I'm a damn villain. This sucks. Their reactions are perfect, though. My reputation as a desperate simp is truly ingrained in their minds." Asher had assumed his ferocious act would intimidate Kate. He expected her to consider the implications for her family, back down, maybe throw out a few hollow threats, and leave with her tail between her legs. He never expected this. Oof. If a young person isn't fired up, can you even call them young? Kate shot back, feigning fearlessness. She crossed her arms, her chin held high. Justice might be delayed, but it would never be defeated. Internally, Kate was ecstatic. When Asher had brought up her family, she had felt a brief flicker of hesitation. But now, that hesitation was gone without a trace. Being able to hear his thoughts was the most exhilarating thing ever. She couldn't remember the last time she'd been this happy. Probably not since Asher started high school. But that didn't matter now. All that mattered was this moment. Asher's eyelid twitched. He was speechless. Damn it. Are you trying to force my hand? Sigh. But I can't bring myself to do it. You're still the same as you always were. Stubborn as a mule. Having a rogue subordinate assigned to your team without your consent was a special kind of hell. Captain Miller was suffering. This wasn't a subordinate. This was a ticking time bomb, a little queen he had to serve. Fearing Asher would snap, he quickly stepped between them again, resuming his role as peacemaker. Mr. Vance, please don't be angry. Let's just talk this out. Then he lowered his voice, turning to Kate. Young, for the love of God, you have to listen to me this time. Seeing the resolute expression on her face, Captain Miller cursed silently. He whirled on the other young officers who were just watching the show. Evans, Baker, what are you two standing around for? We checked everything here, found nothing suspicious. Pack it up. The two officers blinked, then caught on instantly. They sprang into action. Yeah, stop gawking. Grab the gear, let's go. You were watching just as hard as I was. This tea is piping hot. You want to keep mouthing off? Wait till we get back to the precinct. I'll show you something to look at. Asher and the other officers let out a collective, unspoken sigh of relief. As far as Asher was concerned, this wasn't a required plot point. Why add extra scenes for himself? It was basically unpaid overtime. And damn if he wasn't tired of playing the simp. Young, Detective Young, Officer Young. Captain Miller called her name several times. Kate remained rooted to the spot, showing no intention of leaving. His eye twitched, and his tone hardened. Catherine Young, Detective. She finally snapped out of it. As she turned to leave, she threw one last line at Asher. Next time, don't let me catch you slipping. Asher was baffled. What a lunatic. What leverage could she possibly have on me? I'm not stealing. I'm not robbing. I'm not hurting anyone. Where's she going to catch? My little brother. Yeah, right. As if I let you. Later, when the plot demands it, I'll hand-deliver the leverage to you myself. You won't even have to ask. Kate's face burned, but luckily no one noticed her strange reaction. She hurried past the other officers, looking for all the world like a pouting child who'd just lost a fight. Everything that had happened this afternoon had shattered her perception of reality. A novel world? A villain? A protagonist? Kate remained skeptical. She wasn't ready to fully accept it. Although hearing someone's thoughts was undeniably incredible, she chose to trust in science. After her shift, she would go home and see her family's private physician, a specialist in traditional medicine. Maybe she was just overworked and having auditory hallucinations. Or maybe she developed some kind of superpower. If that was the case, she didn't want it. Or, at the very least, she wanted to stay far away from Asher Vance. Just looking at him made her head spin. Mr. Vance, from today until next Saturday, everything is on the house for the entire week, the portly manager rushed to say, terrified that Asher would never return. A police raid during a session was a terrible customer experience, and he couldn't afford to lose a client like Asher. Asher, who had more money than he could spend in a lifetime, wasn't one to turn down a freebie. Fine, you can go. I'm going to get a little more work done here. The manager looked as if he'd been granted a pardon. A genuine smile spread across his face as he bowed out. Before leaving, he gave number 14 a stern warning. Take excellent care of Mr. Vance, and do not displease him in any way, or she was fired. The therapist turned pale with fear, nodding frantically. Asher sighed, feeling like he was coercing an innocent woman. He waved the manager away impatiently and told number 14 to relax and just do her job. A warmth spread through the therapist's heart, and her hands worked with renewed vigor. The difficult moments in life are fleeting, but pleasure can be eternal. With peace finally restored, Asher once again sank into his earthly paradise. That evening, in the VIP room of a lavish, upscale Chinese restaurant, a handsome man in his late 40s smiled warmly. Asher, you get more handsome every time I see you. This was Richard Zhou, Scarlett Zhou's father. Seated next to him was his wife, Scarlett's mother. Lawrence and Eleanor Vance sat across from them. Asher sat reluctantly beside Scarlett. This whole dinner was an absolute farce. Worst of all, He had to maintain his simp persona from start to finish. Internally, he was dying. Outwardly, his face was a cold mask. We can have dinner, but the engagement is a separate issue. The Vances were a cut above the Zhous. As the heir to the Vance Corporation, Asher didn't need to show the Zhou family any deference. Sigh. Father-in-law, it's not that I don't want to marry your daughter. The timing is just wrong. The protagonist, Leo Flynn, hasn't had his series of face-slapping moments yet. Can you please not jump the gun on the plot? Why can't we just stick to the script? The smile on Richard Zhou's face froze. His wife, Victoria, arched a delicate eyebrow. They knew that marrying their daughter into the Vance family was, to some extent, marrying up. But in New York, the Zhou family was still a powerhouse. They could thrive perfectly well without the Vances. Moreover, Scarlett had shown incredible business acumen since she was a child. They were confident that in her hands, the Zhou family enterprise would only grow larger. Scarlett smiled sweetly, her heart filled with a secret warmth. She knew her parents couldn't hear Asher's inner monologue, so she shot them a subtle, meaningful look. Dad, Mom, it's okay. Remember what I told you before we came here? No matter what happens, don't take it to heart. The couple exchanged a glance. Before they left, Scarlett had been unusually insistent, repeatedly telling them that no matter how Asher acted or what he said, they shouldn't let it bother them. She explained that his true feelings were different, that he was only acting resistant for reasons he couldn't disclose. At the time, they had been skeptical, but they had chosen to trust their daughter. After all, she would never do anything to harm them. Asher was floored. Before he could process it, Lawrence Vance's face darkened. Insolent whelp, is it any way to speak? Lawrence, calm down. Asher didn't mean it like that. Eleanor interjected, trying to smooth things over. Lawrence wasn't buying it. Then what did he mean? Look at Scarlett. What a wonderful girl. And then look at our son. This is what happens when you spoil him. Lawrence's stance was firm, bolstered by Scarlett's graceful demeanor. Eleanor felt the same way. In her mind, she had already accepted Scarlett as her future daughter-in-law. Asher, don't make your father angry. Richard, Victoria, let's eat. Everyone, please dig in, Eleanor said, her words a gentle reprimand to her son, though her eyes were filled with adoration. Richard Zhou took the cue. Ah, yes, let's eat. Asher's expression was one of pure agony. He was on the verge of a mental breakdown. What the hell? Who did I piss off? Did some idiot at the company tick off the demoness? What happened to your villain persona? Your cold, aloof, arrogant, untouchable attitude? Why is it all gone? This makes no sense. Risking his father's wrath, Asher muttered just loud enough for everyone to hear, Fine, you can have my body, but you'll never have my heart. My heart belongs to Serafina, and it always will. If you can live with that, then let's get married. The implication was crystal clear. They would be married in name only, living separate lives. Taking it a step further, Asher might even divert Zhou family business connections to the Hayes Corporation, strengthening his true love's family at the expense of his own wife's. It was a blatant betrayal. A heavy silence fell over the table. Victoria Zhou's hand, holding her chopsticks, trembled slightly. A muscle twitched in Richard's jaw. Eleanor wanted to defend her son, but her hands were tied. He had drawn a line in the sand. He was a master of killing a conversation. Lawrence's eyes bulged like a bull's. A forced marriage would bring no happiness, not for his son, and certainly not for this poor girl. Raising a child from infancy to adulthood was about more than just money. It was about love, companionship, and unwavering support. He was shaking with rage, his blood pressure skyrocketing. Should I just leave? Asher surveyed the room, his heart a mix of satisfaction and terror. Old man, please don't have a stroke. I just got a prescription for an herbal remedy that lowers blood pressure. I'll send it to Mom later so she can brew it for you. Just hold on. The day I break this engagement is near. If you have any dignity, demoness, just send over the annulment papers. Go back to your family and cool off for a bit while I finish the rest of the plot. Annulment? In your dreams. I, Scarlett Zhou, am sticking to you for life. You're not getting away, little wolf. Scarlett beamed, the very picture of a gentle, devoted wife. Uncle Lawrence, Aunt Eleanor, please don't worry. I will not be the one to break this engagement. Some people, you see them once, and you fall for them completely. They say you can't force a horse to drink, but you can if it's thirsty enough. Asher's scalp tingled. He stared at Scarlett in disbelief. I assent that my simp line. Get a grip, Scarlett. You're the future queen of the business world, the final boss of this novel. Love is impossible. I can never believe in love. The moment you believe in those words, you lose just like me. You become a helpless simp pushed around by the plot. Go simp for the protagonist. At least you'll save your own life. Don't simp for me, it's a dead end. Asher frowned, preparing to double down on his sim persona. But before he could, bang! Lawrence slammed his hand on the table. You insolent brat. I'm warning you. If you ever want to inherit the Vance Corporation, you will never mention the word divorce again. Otherwise, the entire company goes to your sister. You won't get a single penny. Scarlett's performance had deeply moved him. Eleanor, standing by his side, said nothing to defend Asher this time. Her expression was one of complete agreement. She looked at Scarlett as if she were already her daughter. Richard and Victoria were stunned, their faces a mixture of shock and awe. Then it dawned on them. Their daughter's move was brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. They finally understood why she had told them not to speak. It was a high-stakes gamble, but compared to the vast fortune and extensive network of the Vance family, all they truly wanted was for their daughter to marry into a good home. Asher's head was spinning. He wanted to say, I don't want the company, but his destiny as the villain was inescapable. Even if he ran, some unknown force would drag him back, only to die at Leo Flynn's hands. Rather than die a pathetic death, why not go out with a bang? Experience the pinnacle of life one more time. Enjoy the dramatic rise and fall of a tycoon. What could be better? I swear to God. Am I your son, or is she your daughter? Don't I get a say in this? Fine, fine. You brought out the inheritance card. I fold. But leaving the company to my sister is a better idea anyway. She's way more competent, and at least she doesn't die at the hands of the protagonist in the end. Asher took a deep breath and, with a look of extreme reluctance, acquiesced to his father's threat. The table was laden with a dazzling array of exquisite dishes, a feast for the senses. Everyone was enjoying themselves, except for Asher, who couldn't for the life of him figure out what Scarlett saw in him. Why would she willingly play the role of a simp for a spoiled brat? It was utterly baffling. There had to be a catch. Was she, like him, being compelled by some irresistible force? He cast a suspicious glance at Scarlett. She met his gaze and offered a gentle smile. Asher quickly looked away, a cold chill running down his spine. A smile from the demoness was never a good sign. The focus of the dinner wasn't the food, but the conversation. Suddenly, Scarlett spoke. Uncle Lawrence, I heard you have high blood pressure? Lawrence paused. Then a knowing smile spread across his face. Yes, I do. Asher told you, didn't he? Hell no, I didn't. What are you thinking, old man? God knows where the demoness got her intel. Asher was speechless. Scarlett didn't give a direct answer. Instead, she continued. Our family has an exceptional traditional Chinese medicine doctor on retainer. He has a unique and highly effective remedy for hypertension. If you don't mind, Uncle, you could give it a try. Exceptionally skilled, Lawrence and Eleanor exchanged a look of surprise. Richard Joe's expression turned serious. Scarlett, don't be reckless. It wasn't that he didn't want to recommend the doctor to Lawrence, but medicine was a highly sensitive topic, especially for people of their status. The intention might be good, but if something went wrong, the consequences would be dire. He was willing to take responsibility for his own mistakes, but he wouldn't risk the collective interests of the entire Joe family. Eleanor added, Lawrence's high blood pressure is a chronic issue. We've consulted countless specialists, both here and abroad, with little success. I've never heard of the Joe family having such a medical expert. Facing Eleanor's skepticism, Scarlett smiled, ignoring her father's protests. It's understandable that you haven't heard of him, Aunt Eleanor. Our family's doctor prefers a quiet life and generally only treats members of our family. He's well known within our circle, but virtually unknown to the outside world. It wasn't uncommon for wealthy families to have private physicians. Richard, however, was still mortified and was about to scold his daughter when Lawrence intervened. Richard, you're not being very generous, he teased. Scarlett is making a kind offer. Are you trying to see me kick the bucket early? Of course not, of course not. Lawrence, I was just worried it might not be effective, Richard stammered, breaking into a cold sweat. Well, we won't know until we try, will we? Lawrence said, giving him an easy out. It's an old problem for me. At this point, one medicine is the same as another. What if this one actually works? Richard understood this was Lawrence's way of diffusing the tension and quickly forced a smile. No way. Is this world really that small? Holy crap. Hold on. Let me process this. I hope I'm wrong, but after a moment of stunned silence, Asher turned to Scarlett. This doctor of yours, is his name Julian Joe? HM? How did you know? Scarlett asked, equally surprised, a smile playing on her lips. Then she realized the question was redundant. In the next instant, she could hear the answer she wanted directly from Asher's thoughts. Holy shit, it really is him. Damn it, in my past life, if I had known that old quack was connected to the Joe family, I wouldn't have wasted $5 million on him. That bastard. He even scams his own relatives. What piece of work. Ding. Congratulations, host. You have received a cash reward of plus $666. Asher, silently cursing, offered a lame excuse. It's nothing. I just heard about him from someone. I was planning to pull some strings to have him see my dad in a few days. Lawrence was stunned. Eleanor was stunned. But the most stunned of all was Scarlett. In that moment, she realized two things. First, Asher was not from this world. Second, he was a regressor. What had happened in his past life? Why did he come back? It was all a mystery, and it only made her more fascinated with the little wolf beside her. From what she heard in his thoughts, her own fate in a previous life had been tragic. Both the Zhou and Vance families were destroyed, becoming nothing more than stepping stones for Leo Flynn. Scarlett licked her lips, a playful glint in her eyes. Don't worry, little wolf. I'll protect you this time. As for that protagonist, Leo Flynn, you don't have to worry about him. I'll take care of him for you. An oblivious Asher. Gee, thanks a lot. Eleanor was beaming. Lawrence, look how much our Asher cares about your health. You two are just the same, all bark and no bite. Lawrence kept his stern expression. I don't need his help. I'd be grateful if he just stopped giving me headaches. But secretly, he was glowing with pride. For the first time, he felt his son had truly grown up and was starting to care for his family. What did I do to deserve this? How did Scarlett manage to score more points with my parents? God, if I've sinned, please punish me in some other way. Let the protagonist humiliate me. Don't torture me with this sugar-coated poison, with this demoness. Asher was about to lose it. He just wanted this dinner to end. Lawrence and Eleanor were now looking at Scarlett with increasing warmth and affection. Asher couldn't bear to watch. He lowered his head and focused on his food, channeling his frustration into his appetite. When you like someone, you find more and more to like about them. Eleanor was firmly in this camp. The more she looked at Scarlett, the more perfect she seemed. She was even willing to overlook the news she'd heard that afternoon about Scarlett selling off the Apex Properties shares. Did you think that just because Eleanor was at the Vance Corporation headquarters, she was out of the loop? Not a chance. But because the deal was done so quickly and secretively, the information she had was limited. All she knew was that Scarlett hadn't followed Asher's lead and transferred the red-hot real estate asset to the Hayes family. By the way, Aunt Eleanor, Scarlett said, I wanted to talk to you about Apex Properties. Clatter. Asher's chopsticks slipped from his grasp and fell to the floor with a sharp crack. Clumsy. What's gotten into you? Lawrence shot Asher a disapproving look. Asher awkwardly picked up his chopsticks from the floor. Here, use a new pair, Scarlett said with a smile, offering him a clean set. Asher didn't take them, so she placed them gently in front of him. The moment she mentioned Apex, every eye at the table turned to her. Eleanor blinked, curious as to what Scarlett was about to say. Go on, Scarlett. Scarlett nodded, holding nothing back. I transferred all of the company's shares in Apex to the Hayes family. She was an exceptionally intelligent woman. You don't become the future queen of the business world by being anything less. She knew that just because others didn't bring something up, it didn't mean they were ignorant. It was better to address the issue head-on, both to show respect and to prevent any unspoken resentment from festering. What? The most shocked person in the room was Richard Zhou. You sold the Apex shares to the Hayes family? As a businessman, profit was his priority. He had no idea there was anything wrong with Apex. In his eyes, Scarlett's move was a direct insult to the Van Cess and had cost them billions. What infuriated him even more was that if she was going to sell, why hadn't she offered them to the Zhou family first, instead of their rivals, the Hayes? Was this even his daughter? He couldn't understand it. Neither could Asher. A stampede of 1,000,000 alpacas thundered through his mind. Holy crap, I was gone for 5 minutes, and you already went off to screw over the protagonist and the female lead. Turns out the biggest enemy of the main characters isn't the villain, it's the demoness. You're on another level. But how am I supposed to explain this later? Lawrence rarely involved himself in business details, but he'd heard of Apex Properties. He, too, was puzzled by Scarlett's decision. Eleanor, however, didn't look angry, just confused. Mom, Dad, Uncle, Auntie, I'm sure you're all wondering why I did it, Scarlett explained calmly. Apex Properties has serious problems. They're a hollow shell. They manufactured impressive performance reports, but the intelligence I gathered paints a completely different picture. She paused, pulling out her phone. Evidence speaks louder than words. I'm sending the proof to the group chat now. She was referring to the Vancho family chat, a group composed of Asher's parents, her parents, and herself. There were only 5 members because the day they were invited, Asher and his younger sister had immediately left. Asher's excuse. My heart belongs to Serafina Hayes alone. No one can stop me. It's ride or die. his sister Chloe's excuse. What does my useless brother's wedding have to do with me? I couldn't care less if he lives or dies. A few moments later, after everyone had reviewed the documents compiled by Mark Lee, a collective gasp filled the room. Richard Joe looked immensely relieved. No wonder she'd sold the shares to the Hayes family. Well done, he thought, a savage glee rising within him. With this, how could Harrison Hayes possibly compete with the Joe family for the number 2 spot among the 4 families? Eat dirt, Hayes. Eleanor's hand, holding her phone, trembled slightly. A single glance at the data was enough for her to see the disastrous chain of events they had just avoided. Acquiring Apex would have meant shouldering massive, hidden debts. The Vance Corporation would have lost tens of billions of dollars, and they would have had to pour even more money into the black hole just to clean up the mess. Asher sat perfectly still, eyes forward, a statue of stoic serenity. He had transcended. He was one with the universe. Annie, I hope you're not angry that I acted on my own, the demoness said, her voice a picture of innocence. My dear Asher was busy, so I had to make a quick decision. Eleanor shook her head vehemently. Angry? Of course not. Scarlett, we can't thank you enough. She was utterly, completely won over. With a daughter-in-law like this, what couldn't they achieve? Lawrence chuckled. Eleanor, are you still going to have this girl call you Andy? Taking the hint, Eleanor's expression softened, her eyes glowing with warmth. Scarlett, it's time you made it official. From now on, you can call me Mom. Let me hear you say it. She looked at Scarlett with eager anticipation. In that moment, she made up her mind. No matter what Asher said or did, she would never let this brilliant, capable young woman go. A sexy, subtle curve formed on Scarlett's lips. She glanced at Asher, who looked like he was questioning his own existence, then turned back to Eleanor. Annie, I wouldn't dare. It was a masterful play of feigned modesty. Bang! Lawrence slammed his hand on the table again. What's there not to dare? I like to see that brat say a single word against it. Though he doted on Asher, he also had to be the strict parent. Building an empire was easy. Maintaining it was hard. He couldn't let the centuries-old Vance legacy be ruined by his son. If it was, he would go down in history as the family's greatest failure. Asher wanted to cry. What does this have to do with me? Let the demoness call you whatever she wants. It was going to happen eventually anyway. We're just replaying the scene. Sigh. I'm busy trying to figure out how to get back on script and feed the protagonist his experience points. I don't have time for this family soap opera. Seeing Asher's gloomy silence, Lawrence assumed his threat had worked. Beside him, Scarlett was laughing hysterically on the inside. Go back and feed him experience points? In your dreams, little wolf. She had already arranged for news of Apex's problems to be leaked. By morning, Serafina Hayes would be in for a very big surprise. And that guy Leo Flynn, too. Protagonist? Female lead? They can all go to hell. Scarlett's heart pounded with a mix of anxiety and excitement. She had no memories of her past life, only the knowledge that Asher had been by her side until the very end. This time, she would not let that tragedy repeat itself. As for the matter at hand, Scarlett blushed, a genuine shyness coloring her cheeks. In that case, I'll do as you say, Mom. The last word was barely a whisper. Even the demoness had moments of vulnerability. Asher thought she was afraid of nothing. Eleanor's smile was radiant. Be a little bolder, Scarlett. That was too quiet. Mom couldn't hear you, she said, completely satisfied. Hearing Asher's internal grumbling, the demoness puffed out her cheeks. You think I'm weak, little wolf? You got another thing coming. She took a deep breath and, with a bit more courage, said, her voice slightly louder, Mom. Good. Eleanor beamed, so delighted she was practically giddy. She said it 3 times, a clear sign of her genuine happiness. Lawrence cleared his throat, his own face flushing slightly, his meaning obvious. What are you coughing for, old man? Asher thought irritably. Got a sore throat? I can send you to the hospital later. As a filial son, he was already in a bad mood. Scarlett stifled a laugh. It was agony trying not to burst out laughing in front of everyone. Finally, she let out a small giggle. Dad? Huh? Lawrence was both pleased and utterly confused, as was everyone else. Scarlett, her face red, shot a quick glance at Asher before explaining. Dad, I just thought of something funny. I couldn't help it. Asher just thought the demoness was being weird. Ah, I see, Lawrence said, chuckling awkwardly. The dinner finally concluded on a cheerful note, for everyone except Asher, who had maintained a dark scowl from start to finish, a thundercloud in an otherwise sunny sky. Down in the underground parking garage, Asher felt a sense of surreal liberation. He was finally free. Scarlett stood by the Joe family's Cullinan, hesitating, not getting in the car. Scarlett, come on, let's go home, Richard said, his face glowing with pride. His daughter had brought great honor to their family tonight. She had not only helped the Van Sass, but had also landed a crushing blow on the Hayes family. He couldn't have been more pleased. Because of her outstanding performance in averting a financial catastrophe for the Van Sass, Eleanor had immediately transferred $2 billion to Scarlett. $1 billion was for the Zhou family, and the other $1 billion was for Scarlett personally. It was the Vance way to reward merit generously. Eleanor didn't mind the expense in the slightest. The engagement was all but official. What was a little money spent on her daughter-in-law? As a mother and a woman, she could see that Scarlett's affection for her foolish son was genuine, without a trace of pretense. This was the main reason for her generous reward. Scarlett forced a smile, her reply off-topic. "Dad, I want to take the sports car." Richard was baffled. They had sports cars at home. Why not just go home and take one out then? Eleanor, who had already settled into her own top-of-the-line Cullinan, hopped out and strode over to Asher's car. The three vehicles were parked side by side, with Asher's in the middle. Asher, who hadn't gotten into his car yet, felt a looming sense of dread. "Asher, dear, why don't you drive Scarlett home?" He was dumbfounded. He pointed to the Zhou's car. "Didn't they drive here?" Lawrence got out his car as well. "What do you mean, eh? We're all one family now. Stop asking so many questions and just give the girl a ride, you brat." A triumphant smirk touched Scarlett's lips. She loved this feeling of having Asher wrapped around her little finger. It was an unprecedented thrill. In the end, under his father's coercion, Asher put on a show of reluctant submission, getting into his car in a sulk. "You brat, what is that attitude? At least open the door for her." Lawrence snapped, exasperated. Scarlett quickly intervened. "Dad, it's okay. I'm not some delicate princess. And I'm not helpless. I can open my own door." This only made Lawrence and Eleanor adore their future daughter-in-law even more. Sitting in his Lamborghini Reventon, Asher was a mess of conflicting emotions. All he wanted was to drop Scarlett off as quickly as possible and go blow off some steam. This woman was terrifying. It felt like if he spent another minute with her, all his deepest secrets would be laid bare. This was his new impression of Scarlett after restarting the plot. A moment later, Scarlett slid into the passenger seat. Seeing the little wolf's pouting face, she found it inexplicably amusing. It was just too much fun. "Put your seatbelt on, then give me the address. I'll get you home as soon as possible." Asher felt a sudden weight on his thigh. He looked down. He gasped, sucking in a sharp breath. A pair of stunning, sensuous legs were resting on his lap. They were so pale they almost seemed to glow, and the white silk stockings they were wrapped in felt cool and smooth against his skin. These were the legs that haunted the dreams of countless men. Asher wanted to shout out that he had played with these legs before. His reaction was a beat too slow. He swallowed hard, unable to resist another look. Her delicate feet were arched in an alluring curve, and through the sheer white silk, the crimson polish on her 5 perfect toes was just barely visible. "What the hell? What the hell? What the hell? You little witch, you're playing dirty. Damn it. Are you insane? Do you know what you're doing? You're playing with fire." A knowing smile touched Scarlett's lips. She had twisted in her seat to face him, and she was thoroughly pleased with his reaction. "Humph. And here I thought you only had eyes for that bitch Seraphina Hayes. Men, I'll talk." As much as Asher wanted to freeze time in this moment, time, as usual, had other plans. "Get your legs off me, or you won't like what happens next," he said, forcing a stern expression despite his reluctance. His inner monologue, however, was broadcast directly into Scarlett's ears. She blinked, her expression one of pure innocence. "But my legs are tired. I spent all day negotiating with Seraphina and the Hayes family over the Apex shares." Asher's mouth twitched. "Damn it. We were getting along just fine, but then you had to bring up that stupid woman. Now you're just forcing me to rebel, aren't you?" His hand closed around her ankle. A jolt went through both of them. Asher's jolt. "Damn, it's been a while, but this leg still feels just as good. I really don't want to let go." Scarlett's jolt. "This is the first time a man has ever held me like this." Just as Asher was about to make his next move, Scarlett's mind raced. "Asher Vance, if you dare move my leg, I'll scream that you're assaulting me. Mom and Dad haven't left yet." Asher froze, his hand still on her ankle. He glanced around. Both black Cullinans were still parked right there. This was beyond awkward. He was losing every battle against the demoness, and this time, Asher refused to surrender. "So what if your parents are watching? What does that have to do with me?" "My parents? They're your parents, too," Scarlett retorted. Asher was stunned. "Are you playing word games with me?" She pointed with a slender, pale hand. "I'm not playing games. Aren't they our parents?" Asher followed her gaze, and his heart leaped into his throat. This was insane. Eleanor had rolled down her window and was watching them with a warm, knowing smile. Because the Cullinan was so much higher than the low-slung Reventon, she theoretically had a clear view inside. But the Lamborghini's windows were tinted. Asher hadn't lowered his, so all she could see was a blurry silhouette. Still, if she squinted, "The hell they are," Asher said, defending the last shred of his simp dignity. With a heavy heart, he gently placed Scarlett's leg back on his lap, giving her foot a little squeeze, as if in retaliation. Ah! Caught off guard, Scarlett let out a soft cry, her lips parting like a startled rabbit. Fortunately, the car's soundproofing was excellent, and no one outside heard a thing. Ha! The demonist probably thinks she got one over on me. No wonder the ancients had a thing for feet. This texture is incredible. I guess this is what they mean by pleasure and pain. I'll let her keep them there for a few more minutes. It's not like I'm losing out. I can use the time to figure out how to get the plot back on track tomorrow. Scarlett peeked at Asher. His face was a mask of disgust, but it was all an act. His hand was idly tracing lines on her ankle and calf, surreptitiously, like a thief in the night. The way he so clearly wanted to touch her, but couldn't show it, sent another wave of delight through Scarlett. Ha! You didn't see that coming, did you, little wolf? I've anticipated your anticipation. All your secrets are mine. Wait, what secrets? Scarlett's thoughts trailed off as she glanced at him with renewed suspicion. Asher's face flushed. Little Asher, have you forgotten the demonist power from our past life? You useless thing. Disgraceful. I'm disgusted with myself. He waved a hand in front of his nose, feigning repulsion. Okay, that's enough. Your leg has rested. Take it off now. It stinks. Scarlett just wanted to laugh at his clumsy attempt to use a new topic to cover his embarrassment. But as she started to smile, a deep blush spread across her beautiful face, and her enchanting eyes grew hazy. As for what her foot had just brushed against, it didn't take a genius to figure it out. What she hadn't expected was for Asher to be even more flustered than she was. Was this really the infamous playboy, the #1 bachelor of New York City? What, are you shy? I thought you were the great Asher Vance, who flits through a field of flowers without a single petal sticking to him. Scarlett blurted out, voicing a concern that had been nagging at her. The rumors about Asher were endless. In college, he was seen taking a D-list influencer to a greasy spoon for late-night food in his sports car. A month later, he was photographed by paparazzi holding hands with some Korean pop star on the street. It was a constant stream of negative press. Men envied him. Women cried because they weren't the one by his side. The Zhou family, of course, wasn't concerned with money. Scarlett's concern was more personal. Was her little wolf still a virgin? Just as men cared about a woman's past, so too did women care about a man's. And Scarlett was no exception. If Asher was truly an experienced player, she would have to consider certain measures. She would not tolerate her beloved man being anything less than pure for her. Of course, this was all just her imagination running wild. But then she remembered all the stories of sons from minor wealthy families who partied even harder than Asher. Every time she thought about it, a bitter taste filled her mouth. Other men could do as they pleased, but not her little wolf. Never him. A wave of disappointment washed over her, but she quickly pushed it aside. From now on, she would be the one in control. The past didn't matter. The future was unwritten. Only the present counted. What the hell? What tabloid hack came up with that nickname for me? Why not just call me 30-a-night Vance and make me a legend? If it wasn't for the damn plot, I wouldn't have had a flirt with all those girls. And after all that, I never even got a real taste. Why is the demonist asking about this? Oh, I get it. She's trying to test me. If I act like a total scumbag again, she'll leave me. I'm a genius. With a plan in mind, Asher adopted a predatory glare. So what if I am? You want to try me? Thump, thump. Scarlett's heart hammered against her ribs. Her breathing grew shallow. He was still a virgin. Asher was once again dumbfounded. No way. What the hell? Is this demonist a masochist? I literally just told her I'm a scumbag, and her reaction is, over the top. This isn't right. Something is very, very wrong. He felt tears welling in his eyes. He met Scarlett's gaze, which was so intense it looked like she wanted to devour him whole. His composure shattered. Your foot has a smell. Get off, he exclaimed, reaching for her ankle. Scarlett bit her lower lip gently, a move so alluring it was practically illegal. Her foot danced in the air in front of him, slippery as an eel. Nonsense, she purred, a hint of playful anger in her voice. My feet don't smell. I don't have athlete's foot. Why don't you smell them for yourself, darling? Then you'll know. If I have sinned, please let me be judged by the law, not tortured by the demoness. My sanity is breaking. Her foot, far from having any odor, carried a faint pleasant fragrance. It was a foot worthy of the heavens, one that would make millions of men drool. Asher thought things couldn't possibly get any crazier. He was wrong. The surprise was yet to come. As Scarlett's legs swayed, the hem of her dress rode up. As if afraid he hadn't gotten a good enough look, she nonchalantly used one slender hand to pull it up just a little bit higher. Holy shit, black lace. Asher found himself face to face with an old friend he hadn't seen in years. A wave of nostalgia, of bittersweet parting and helpless longing, washed over him. My dear friend, how have you been? Knock, knock, knock. Before he could get too sentimental, a light rapping on the car window startled them both. Scarlett snatched her leg back as if electrocuted, her face turning the color of a beet. After she had composed herself, Asher let out a sigh of relief, mixed with a tiny thrill of excitement, and lowered the window. Hey, Mom, what's up? He asked, looking at Eleanor standing outside his car. Eleanor's face was stern. What's up? I asked you to take Scarlett home. You've been sitting here for ages. Are you trying to get out of it? Scarlett's face was on fire. She stared out her own window, unable to meet Eleanor's gaze. Seeing this, Eleanor assumed Asher had been bullying Scarlett again. Her expression chilled. She loved her son, but Scarlett was a one-in-a-million daughter-in-law. She wouldn't let him scare her away. Mom, you have no idea how wrong you are. Of course I'm taking her. Don't worry, Mom. It's no problem, Asher said with a weak smile. He stomped on the gas. The engine roared to life, and a Lamborghini shot towards the garage exit. On the way, he deliberately asked for the directions to the Joe residence. He knew the way, of course, but he had to pretend he didn't. His character was a simp who cared for no woman other than the female lead, no matter how beautiful they were. He couldn't show the slightest interest. He had planned to use this to annoy Scarlett. They were about to get married, and he didn't even know where she lived. Surely that would upset her, but no. She wasn't angry at all. In fact, she happily gave him the address. Her original plan had been to play dumb and extend their time together, but Asher's determined expression made her relent. Twice during the drive, she tried to put her leg on his lap again. The first time, he was in the middle of driving, and the sudden pressure of her foot was a dangerous distraction. To maintain his character, he had no choice but to push it away. The second time was at a red light near a neighborhood. This time, he didn't push it away so quickly. They weren't moving, after all. It was perfectly safe, not recommended for inexperienced drivers. After nearly an hour of this delightful torture, he finally delivered the demoness to her home. He flatly refused her invitation to come up for a drink, stomped on the gas, and sped away from her family's mansion. A man has to learn to protect himself when he goes out. This was the internet meme that had taken on a profound, new meaning for him tonight. It wasn't just a joke, it was a fact. All riled up from his encounter with the demoness, Asher drove around for a while to cool off, his desire to go out and party having completely vanished. On the way, he happened to pass a fruit stand, and an idea struck him. He pulled over, bought a watermelon, and then casually asked the vendor if he could borrow his large knife. When a man wasn't looking, Asher activated his iron mantle skill and dragged the blade across his skin. Nothing. He increased the pressure several times. Still nothing. A slow grin spread across his face. Satisfied, he returned the knife, paid for the watermelon without haggling, and drove off. Too much had happened today. He needed to go home and sort through his thoughts. Back home, he took a shower, scrolled through some short-form videos, and fell asleep. The night passed without incident. The next morning, Asher woke up full of hope for another beautiful day. He did his daily ritual of scrolling through videos, mentally preparing to implement Plan B of his Save the Protagonist and let him humiliate the villain initiative. That's when he saw the news that made his brain short-circuit. The #1 trending topic on TikTok, #shocking. Apex Properties a hollow shell, drowning in massive hidden debt. Not only that, but the second, third, fourth, and fifth trending topics were all about Apex. #Apex bankrupt. Chairman allegedly fled the country with his mistress and her sister. Sources claim Vance Corp is currently the largest shareholder in Apex. How will their legal team handle this mess? Vance Corp and Hayes Corp allegedly finalized Apex share transfer yesterday afternoon. Insiders reveal Hayes Corp is now the largest shareholder. In the security break room of the Hayes Corporation building, bang! Leo Flynn slammed his fist on the table, his eyes wide with fury. Damn it, where did it go wrong? How did that useless rich kid find out about Apex's problems so quickly? His plan to deliver a crippling first blow to the Vance family was in ruins. Not only that, but he had shot himself in the foot. The Hayes family was now the one left holding the bag, responsible for the massive financial fallout from Apex's collapse. As for the shares he had so cleverly arranged for them to acquire, they were now worthless pieces of paper. No one in their right mind would touch them. They were stuck with a toxic asset. A cold, menacing glint appeared in Leo's eyes. He pulled out his phone and dialed a number. In a high-end luxury apartment, the blackout curtains were drawn tight, sealing the room in darkness. The space was cluttered with an array of monitors and high-tech equipment. A beautiful young woman sat curled in a gaming chair, a bottle of soda, and a bag of chips on the desk beside her. Buzz! Buzz! A black, untraceable burner phone on the corner of the desk vibrated. Only a handful of people had this number. The woman sighed, reluctantly pausing the show she was binge-watching. She picked up the phone and answered, her voice lazy. "What is it?" "Red Rose, did you see the news today?" Leo asked, struggling to keep the rage out of his voice. "I saw it," she replied. "I need you to find out who inside Vance Corporation discovered the problem with Apex Properties. It's my day off. No price is high enough." Leo's jaw twitched. 100,000. 200. 180. Deal. Click. The line went dead. Leo stared at his phone, a feeling of being ripped off settling in. Usually, this kind of intelligence cost him 80,000, tops. Today, Red Rose had taken him to the cleaners. The Dragon's Den didn't have unlimited funds. The loss stung, but he told himself it was worth it. Serafina Hayes' problem was his problem. In his mind, she was already his woman, and the Hayes family fortune was as good as his. The financial hit from this debacle was significant. He needed to find the mastermind behind the Van Cess move and, if possible, recruit them. If that didn't work, he would have to arrange an accident. The laws were much more relaxed overseas. He could kill with impunity there, but not here. He still hadn't solidified his position. Meanwhile, Red Rose hung up the phone with a look of disgust. "Cheapskate. If you love haggling so much, why don't you just cut off your own head?" Red Rose was one of the key, supporting female characters in the novel, responsible for providing intelligence to the protagonist, Leo Flynn. They had been introduced by a mutual contact shortly after he returned to the country. Their relationship was purely transactional. And what was a protagonist? Someone who got all the lucky breaks, all the girls, all the advantages. Buying priceless antiques for pennies, getting favors from beautiful women for next to nothing. Life was always on easy mode for them. Red Rose had done her own digging on Leo. He was loaded from his time overseas, but he was also the type of client she hated most. Rich but stingy. Every time he wanted intel, he would haggle. Once or twice would have been fine, but he did it every single time. It drove her insane. The rumors say Asher Vance is a good-for-nothing brat. It couldn't have been him, right? She mused. Probably not. There must be an expert working for the Van Cess. The thought of a good mystery piqued her interest. She changed her posture, and her fingers began to fly across the keyboard, a blur of motion. Clack, 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 clack. A few minutes later, her phone rang again. "What did you find?" Leo asked, his voice cold. Red Rose silently cursed the cheapskate a few more times. "It's sorted." It was Asher Vance's fiancée, Scarlett Jo, who uncovered the problems with Apex. Her, an image of the stunningly beautiful woman, whose looks rivaled even Serafina Hayes's, flashed through Leo's mind. A flicker of avarice appeared in his eyes. He had seen plenty of beautiful women abroad, but the ones he had encountered here in New York were on another level entirely. True goddesses who made his past conquests look like cheap imitations. How else could the mighty leader of the Dragon's Den be brought so low as to work as a common security guard? Same as usual. Wire the money to the usual account, Red Rose reminded him. Leo snapped out his thoughts. I know. You'll get your money, he said impatiently. Then stop dragging it out until midnight every time, she shot back angrily. Click. The line went dead. Red Rose threw the phone onto her desk. Cheapskate. Miser. I hope you choke on your own stinginess. If it weren't for the sheer volume of work Leo gave her, she would have cut ties with him long ago. He always paid, but it was always late, a few days, a week, sometimes half a month later. It was like she owed him. After his shift change, Leo Flynn stepped out of the security office. He paced restlessly in front of the CBD tower, his mind racing, trying to come up with a new plan to deal with that spoiled brat, Asher Vance. How dare a useless heir from a wealthy family try to steal the woman he had his eyes on? He was asking for death. As he was deep in thought, he heard the click-clack of high heels on the marble floor. The footsteps were hurried, urgent. Leo looked up instinctively and saw Serafina Hayes storming towards the main entrance, her face a mask of fury. Humans are visual creatures, and in today's world, looks are everything. Leo saw the woman he was determined to possess. An idea sparked in his mind. He moved towards the door, positioning himself for a chance encounter. Ms. Hayes, what a coincidence. Where are you off to? He asked, flashing what he believed to be a devastatingly handsome smile. He had intervened a few times before, chasing Asher away from Seraphina, and had built up a small foundation of goodwill in her mind. That was the only reason he dared to speak to her now. Without that pretext, she wouldn't have given him the time of day. But Leo, in all his calculations, had missed one crucial detail. His goodwill balance with Seraphina was now at zero. Ever since she realized he was just another wolf in sheep's clothing, she had found him utterly repulsive. Where I'm going is my business. It has nothing to do with you, she said, her voice dripping with ice. Leo's smile froze. Seraphina had always been cold and distant, but never this hostile. He felt a wall go up between them. You're right, it's not my business, he said, switching tactics to a more subtle approach. But if you're going to Vance Corporation, you should probably take me with you. Aren't you afraid Asher might try something? He played his trump card, his tone implying, you need me. If she hadn't been able to hear Asher's thoughts, Seraphina might have hesitated, weighing the pros and cons of bringing Leo along. She truly had been afraid of Asher getting aggressive. But now, that thought didn't even cross her mind. She knew Asher didn't actually like her. His whole pursuit was just an act for the plot, for his character. And for all his theatrics, Asher was surprisingly straightforward. He was open about what he did, however unsavory. Leo, on the other hand, was a hypocrite with a mind full of filth. If she had to choose between an honest scoundrel and a duplicitous saint, she would choose the scoundrel every time. At least he was real. Actually, I'm not afraid at all, Seraphina said with a cold smile, brushing past him. What's going on? Leo's mind reeled. He couldn't figure out what had caused this sudden, drastic change in her attitude. Usually, the mere mention of Asher's name would elicit a look of disgust from her. This time, he could have sworn he saw a flicker of appreciation in her eyes. And for him, nothing but pure, unadulterated contempt. Just you wait until you fall into my hands. I'll show you what I'm really made of, he thought, his eyes filled with a dark, possessive hunger. Conquering an ice queen like her was a worthy goal for a dragon king like him. The colder she was, the more it roused the beast within. He didn't give up. His pride as a king wouldn't allow it. He walked to the curb and hailed a taxi. Follow that white Maserati, he told the driver, pointing to Seraphina's car. The driver just nodded and pulled out into traffic. As long as the fare was paid, he didn't care where they went. Meanwhile, in Asher's luxurious private office at the top of the Vance Corporation Tower, Asher rubbed his temples, a headache brewing. The first face-slapping plot has officially gone off the rails. The system hasn't given me a score yet, so I don't even know if that counted as following the script. Man, protagonist, you need to step up your game. Think of something, anything. I'll cooperate, I promise. You're the one with all the evil schemes. Just do something. All he could do was silently cheer for Leo from the sidelines. The guy was the chosen one, the golden boy of this story. He had to have fate on his side. With that thought, Asher relaxed, leaning back in his executive chair to enjoy a rare moment of peace. Knock, knock. A rap on the door. Asher sighed. Come in. His beautiful secretary entered. Mr. Vance, Ms. Hayes is downstairs. She says she needs to speak with you. Asher blinked. The high and mighty Seraphina Hayes. Coming to him? This was a first. All right, I'll be down. You can go, he said with a wave of his hand. After she left, Asher walked to the floor-to-ceiling window, gazing out at the sprawling city below. From up here, he felt like a king surveying his domain. Sigh. Time to put on the simp costume again. This was an unscheduled appearance, and he really didn't want to do it. He straightened his tie and practiced a look of lovelorn devotion in the large mirror on the wall. He was in character. Time to go down, put in a half-ass performance for Seraphina, and get back to his blissful state of doing absolutely nothing. Downstairs in the lobby. Holy crap, isn't that Seraphina Hayes? What is she doing here? She's even more beautiful in person. No wonder Mr. Vance is so obsessed. Pfft. She's pretty, but is she as pretty as our Ms. Joe? I think Ms. Joe is way better. Oh, shut up. You can say that all you want, but I've seen you sneaking glances at Ms. Hayes this whole time. Don't even pretend. I'm just making a comparison. It's not a crime. Seraphina, dressed in a chic, cream-colored pantsuit that exposed her elegant neck, stood with her arms crossed, her long hair cascading down her back. Her slender legs were encased in white silk stockings. She was glaring at Leo Flynn, who was standing beside her. I told you I don't need your help. Why did you follow me? Leo recited the excuse he had rehearsed on the way over. I was just worried you might get into trouble here. I hear Asher Vance is not a good person. He tends to get forceful with women he can't have. Seraphina's brow furrowed. Her disgust for Leo now surpassed any annoyance she felt for Asher. He was basically calling Asher a rapist. She had been on the receiving end of Asher's advances for weeks. Did he think she didn't know what Asher was like? He was all talk. The moment she rejected him, he would back off. He had never once laid a hand on her. Leo, on the other hand, had tried to grab her hand several times under the guise of protecting her. Luckily, he had never succeeded. Thinking back on it now, a chill went down her spine. Serafina, you finally came to see me. Well, I heard you were here. I dropped everything. I walked out of a major board meeting, ignored everyone's objections, and rushed down here, just for you. Asher announced, his voice overflowing with passionate sincerity as he strode towards her. Serafina looked at him, her eyes practically shooting flames. If she couldn't hear his inner monologue, she might have actually believed his pack of lies. Usually ignores me, but today she shows up on her own. I'll make you wait for 10 minutes. Let you get a taste of what it's like to be the pathetic simp waiting around. Ha ha! What meeting? I knew you were here the whole time. I just didn't come down right away. How does it feel? Are you pissed?